Someone has to pay.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, March 28th, 2019. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination, episode 1124.
This is No Agenda.
It's a dark day for the internet, and we're broadcasting live from the capital of the drone star state here in downtown Austin, Tejas, in the Cludio in the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where we're maxed out, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
Maxed out on what?
Maxed out on the Max plane. 737 Max.
Are you
still
still
flying it all this year?
Are you still on the Max story? It's like, move on, man. We have so many more stories to deal with.
Getting stuff from people.
Oh, I know. You know, there is one small problem that's cropped up. People are very quick to share something from a Google Drive, which I appreciate. Whenever, especially because I restrict how many megabytes can come through on my mail server.
Yeah, I will tell people this. If you send anything to adam@curry.com and it's over
10,
I think 700 bytes.
10 megabytes.
You can't get it through. 10 megabytes, my butt.
Yeah, it'll do 10 megabytes.
Go on.
Yeah. So
that accounts for the headers.
Well, yeah, true. I changed that, maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah, because people, say, oh, I found this great movie. Here's the DVD. Sending me ISO files. Okay, no.
You have a gigabit line.
It's not. It's about the storage space.
Okay.
Storage space. I have my own mail server. I don't use the Gmails. Anyway, when people send me something through the Google Drive, they automatically assume that they can share it with adam@curry.com. But I do not have an adam@curry.com account linked to Google for obvious reasons. So I always have to say, could you please reshare it to this Gmail address? I think there's a way you can do it where you can just share with anyone, right? It doesn't have to be one person.
It seems to me that there's a box you can tick.
Yeah, I would think. I'm just saying it for people. It's appreciated they share. I just can't access
notice it once in a while. I don't get it that often because people, they just send here's a Google Drive link. I click on it. Usually works.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's more often than not, it doesn't. Anyway. So an interesting week.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Lively.
Yeah, I was down for the count on the couch, but I got a lot of opportunity to watch people's heads explode, which was kind of fun. And then also switching back. There was some stuff on C-SPAN a little bit, but I guess it really was the media that was the main focus this week.
Yeah.
How fine they perform, how well they do.
Well, they're digging themselves out of a hole. I'm watching it. They're changing the narrative. And that's not really what we meant. I mean, to watch this backpedaling is just astonishing. It's very well done.
You know what? Just from an overall meta perspective, what I saw was we had the 4-pager from Barr, which kind of said everyone like, oh, wait a minute, now we got a problem. We were very wrong. Then it was like, oh, well, don't worry, because the Southern District of New York, the Southern District of New York, that's where it's going
to the rescue.
Right. And then, so the Southern District of New York, the next day, the Southern District of New York speaks. But what it says is this.
Today, we announce criminal extortion charges against Michael Avenatti. The charges are based on Avenatti's scheme to extract more than $20 million in payments from a public company by threatening to use his ability to garner publicity to inflict financial and reputational harm on the company.
And we'll talk about that in a second. So nothing really changed. There was not a lot of info, but it was the Southern District of New York. The narrative had changed about the SDNY. And then the next day, Jussie Smollett has all his charges dropped, and the whole news cycle changed. It was like this beautiful, dare I say, orchestrated moment where we don't know what to do, and boom, we got a 2-punch with a tap first and then a solid left hook, and now we're into something else. And then the pivot started. Now as you say, the news is starting to dig itself out of the hole. And when you look at, Avenatti connected to CNN.
But, yes. The thing about Avenatti, I don't know, do you have any clips of this
I do.
Besides that?
Yes, I have a Fox Business News analysis.
Well, the thing about what, unfortunately for him, or what for the news media, is this really puts into doubt the whole thing with Stormy Daniels.
Oh,
because if this guy's just trying to pull a Jesse Jackson extortion racket, which you can't do the way he did it.
No,
I mean you have to know how to do that properly.
How about this clip we'll listen to this Fox Business News clip, see if we learn anything more about what actually happened. Because I think there is a real story here. It's just he played it in a stupid way.
Sense that people were looking out for money for Michael Avenatti. His law firm had filed for bankruptcy. His ex-wife was looking for money. Is there any background you could share that perhaps what would have led him to? Because this whole Nike thing went down in basically just the last couple of days.
Yeah. Well, what I think is interesting about the speed of the Nike situation, I mean, it literally is like a 4-day case, is that they moved this quickly to do criminal complaints. And I tell you, there's 2 reasons for a criminal complaint in a white-collar case, which this is still primarily a white-collar case. The first is it lets people at press conferences say a lot more because there's a public record of an affidavit that has more in it. So you could see from the New York press conference in particular, I mean, they were laying it on thick, calling him everything under the sun and describing every nook and cranny of their case. The other thing it does is it says we're not going to wait and do grand jury. We're going to hurry up and put handcuffs on this guy. And I'm a little curious whether the government's perspective is going to be that this man needs to be locked up pre-trial, that they wanted to hurry. They see a person who's out of control. They argue that he's a risk of flight. They may even argue that he's a danger of economic harm, which is kind of a rarely used theory for detention. But I think the next week or so is going to be very telling in terms of what their approach is going to be towards this guy.
I just want to point out how much like the end of The Godfather this looks like, where all the enemies get it at the same time. The Mueller report is a bust. Avenatti gets hauled off. The other guy, Geragos, there's a CNN connection. There's a connection to Kaepernick, the quarterback. Mr. President, warm up the Twitter fingers. You have a long night ahead of you, sir.
That was another kind of analysis you could make. Kind of like that.
Yeah.
Trump, the Godfather, got all his enemies in one fell swoop. But the Nike thing, you know that's probably going to be true. The allegations of them paying kids.
Apparently, they had recorded him. They had a wiretap for some other reason or whatever, and they caught him doing this in real time, and that's when that's why they went so fast.
Right, and he was extorting them, but you also have to think that Nike really has a problem. You know, amidst the college admission scandal and, you know, them, because the accusation, I think, is they're bribing young athletes, paying them, signing them up for contracts in high school. All of this, I guess, is not legal. I'm not sure how that all works. Sports not my wheelhouse. Do you know anything about these charges?
I don't know how much trouble they're in, actually. I mean, they're pretty circumspect about those deals. They like to sign people up for their shoe contracts. Mm-hmm. As soon as they can, if they have any potential, but a lot of it is, I'm sure I doubt that I think this guy just was.
You don't think it was a preemptive strike?
False accusations, personally. There hasn't been any exposition on the Nike. I mean,
no, there hasn't.
Slave labor to make shoes.
That's the real problem here. We should go talk about that with them. Yeah, I'd like how Avenatti was sitting there. Hey, man, you want me to wipe off $10 billion off of your client's market cap? Wow. What an idiot.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be the front runner for 2020.
Yeah, he's going to run for president.
CNN can pick him, can't they? Really good. Really, really good.
Well, CNN's got, they're finally coming to grips with this problem.
Do you think they're coming to grips with it? I don't see them coming to grips with anything. My understanding
is that there's been a lot of meetings. But to me, meetings means coming to grips.
Huh? You mean just about
everything?
Really?
Yeah.
Do tell. Is this an inside source? What are you learning, bro?
No, it's been floating around. It's in the trades. Yeah, they're concerned about their reputation.
How about their ratings?
Their ratings. The thing is, they've been using this trick to get their ratings up, but their ratings haven't budged against MSNBC, which is the real bad actor here that nobody wants to talk about.
But what everyone on Fox has been spouting is that both CNN and MSNBC's ratings tanked. I think they're focusing mainly on CNN. Tanked 50% after the Barr interpretation of the Mueller report came out.
How many did you do it? That's bull crap. How do you mean the ratings don't come out that fast?
They took the overnights and they took the 25, 34.
A couple of overnights. I mean, start when it came out last Friday.
Yeah, no, they took the difference between Friday or Thursday and Monday. I think it was a ratings. It's a way of reading the numbers.
Okay, well, it's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. But I don't see why people are going to change their viewing habits. It seems to me when this stuff comes out, you want to watch. I think the ratings would go up because you want to see how CNN's going to cover their ass. I'd tune in.
Well, honestly, all I'm seeing right now is all the networks laughing at each other, putting up little over the shoulder boxes of that host or this host, and he's an idiot and she's an idiot. And they're now just all talking about themselves.
They love that.
Yes. So we have a couple of things to handle. Let me do the easy stuff first. How about?
Well, if you want to just take a little respite here, I have a couple of things because you did this in the last show, and I started noticing this has become a big trend, which is the compilation of one thing at you.
Yeah,
these compilations they have. For example, I have a couple of short ones that we can play just to get
into the groove.
I got the compilation. This is just one show of Rachel Maddow. This is the compilation of Rachel from one single show during this mania.
Russia, Vladimir Putin. Russia hates Russia, Putin, Russia, Moscow, Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russians, Moscow, Russia, Putin, Russia against us, Russians, Russia against the U.S. The Russian government scheme. The Russians, Vladimir Putin, Russia, Putin and Russia, Moscow, Russia, the Russians, Russian, the Soviet Empire, the second of the 20th century's great evils, communism, communism, Russia, assault by Russia,
Putin despises the West in general and the United States in particular, the Soviet Empire. Russia. They're the adversary. They want to bring us down, the Soviet Union.
Russia.
Undermine the West, Soviet communists on the left.
Russia. That does it for us tonight. We will see you again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that was from one show.
Was that a recent show?
It was a few months back, I think, but it was a show about Russia, collusion.
Yes.
So you'd expect her to say Russia a lot. But there's another, I have the second one, which is this one, this is one, and I'm pretty sure we haven't played this one. This is one where they've taken and clipped everything that equates the Russia collusion with Watergate.
Oh, yeah.
And then 9/11.
Yeah.
And treason.
Russia hacked our election. That was a 9/11 scale event.
At the caliber of a Pearl Harbor or a 9/11. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree with that.
The election of Donald Trump was a little bit like, a political and constitutional September 11th.
That was a Pearl Harbor scale event.
It was on the scale of a Pearl Harbor, a 9/11.
It is a 9/11 danger to the sovereignty of the United States.
They attacked the core of our very democracy.
Robbie Mook, the former Clinton campaign manager, said it's like Watergate.
Parallels to Watergate here are eerie.
It's just like with the Watergate scandal.
Revelations that have some raising the specter of Watergate.
But Dan Rather said this has the potential to be bigger than Watergate.
Is bigger than Watergate.
Scandal as big as Watergate.
One Democrat now using the word treason to describe the new Russian revelations.
You, sir, floated the word treason.
It seems like there's a lot of evidence that there are members of the administration who are more concerned about Russia's goals than our own.
That, I believe, is actually close to the textbook definition of treason.
I mean, look, that's the definition of treason.
Senate Democrats want a 9/11-style commission.
An independent investigation, similar to what we did after we were attacked on 9/11.
The House and Senate ought to be doing this jointly, just as we did after 9/11.
Just like we had after 9/11.
And I would like to see a 9/11-type commission.
Kind of like the 9/11 committee.
9/11.
I hadn't heard that one. It's a good one.
It's just, these are cropping up all over the place because
Because we can is wise. Because we can. It's out there. It's there for the making.
It's because there's so much material out there.
Yeah. I have
for
one.
The last 2 years, these networks, just to get their ratings up, apparently that's what everyone thinks, is they have been harping on this. And so you have, it's rich. That was a 1 minute, 28 second clip of 9/11 treason and all the rest. But you could put together probably a good hour.
I have one myself. I won't play the whole thing, but I'll just, I picked up a new one myself this morning.
Does the public understand just how much trouble the president is in?
To believe that the president isn't compromised requires such a leap of faith.
I think we have all the proof we need of a scandal that's arguably worse than Watergate.
Do we know if there is still this belief and aspect that the president is working for the Russians? I can't answer that.
The U.S. president possibly working for the Russians.
I mean, it goes on for 2 more minutes. We've heard enough of it. But yeah.
It goes on for days.
Yeah.
We should take, by the way, you have about 3 or 4 of these recent ones.
We can take a whole week off.
I'm thinking we could put together an entire show.
Well, I do have 2 like 1:45 in length clips, but they're from Glenn Greenwald. And he did his own version of a takedown of the media and MSNBC in particular that I thought was really good. We've always played Glenn Greenwald clips. We've always liked him on the show
I want to preface this clip with the comment that Greenwald noticed about maybe 6 to 9 months ago that they stopped bringing him on these shows.
Yes. Yeah, that's what the first clip is about.
He was getting irked by it, I think, because he likes the attention. And so he really started building up a lot of material to blast these guys. And then another kind of an element to this was they also stopped putting him on Democracy Now!
Oh.
And so they brought him back to Democracy Now! And Mark Ames, the partner with Matt Taibbi, or used to be, made this comment on Twitter. Says, Democracy Now! Is trying to walk back all their Russiagate crap by bringing Glenn back. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, exactly. Well, MSNBC has not made that decision yet, and Greenwald went off.
It was continuously on MSNBC, which, let me just say, should have their top host on prime time go before the cameras and hang their head in shame and apologize for lying to people for 3 straight years, exploiting their fears to great profit. These are people who were on the verge of losing their jobs. That whole network was about to collapse. This whole scam saved them. And not only did they constantly feed people for 3 straight years total disinformation, they did it on purpose, Tucker. And the proof of that is that unlike you, who has been criticized in a lot of different ways by the left, some of which I agree with and we've talked about before, the first time I ever watched your show, you had on Adam Schiff, the leading Democrat, to talk about on your set for 12 straight minutes collusion so that your audience could hear the other side of the story. MSNBC did the exact opposite. There was a whole slew, not just me, of left-wing journalists with very high journalistic credentials, far more than anyone on that network, like Matt Taibbi and Jeremy Scahill and many others, including myself, who were banned from the network because they wanted their audience not to know that anybody was questioning or expressing skepticism about the lies and the scam they were selling because it was so profitable. They did it on purpose. It was a total fraud that they perpetrated on their audience. And to the extent that they talked about it at all, it was to call us agents of the Russian government, to defame us as traitors, and to lie about us continuously to their audience. And there's still no accountability. They still won't put us on their airwaves. They still won't apologize. And they're still lying to their audience. They don't want their audience to know what they did to them for 3 straight years on purpose.
Yeah, I think he's kind of angry. Little bitchy,
he needs to go on. Well, he is a lefty. We know that.
He's very lefty.
And he's right. Everyone he named are these lefties.
He's a lefty who's right.
Different perspective. By the way, this is the same thing that's going on with climate change.
Yes. Now, before we go there, I want to play the second clip. I don't want to
go there yet.
Okay, I want to play the second clip because here he takes on a total no agenda stance, a lefty who's right about the intelligence agencies and who is being put on the air, which I think we've been talking about that since show number 1.
It is completely corrupted journalism. The whole point of what we were supposed to learn from the debacle of WMDs in the Iraq War, which, by the way, this network that we're on was one of the leaders of, was the fact that we were not supposed to trust intelligence agencies when they say things without evidence. And not only did MSNBC and CNN use those people as their sources, they hired them as their news analysts. So if you turned on CNN or MSNBC, it was basically state TV. It was CIA TV. 3 weeks ago, Tucker, 3 weeks ago, John Brennan was on MSNBC, and he said that he strongly believes that Robert Mueller is going to indict members of the Trump family either before or after March 15th because he's too noble to use the Ides of March for having conspired with Russia. They kept all dissent off the air. They turned themselves only into the spokespeople of the people they're supposed to be investigating and scrutinizing, which is the intelligence community and the military officials who now are their colleagues, who now report the news. You have government officials who spent their whole careers in the Pentagon and in the CIA. They're disinformation agents who now work at CNN and MSNBC shaping what their news is. And that's why these channels turned into disinformation campaigns, because those are the people that they hired, the people they're supposed to be serving as watchdogs over, the people who are neocons, the people who lied the country into war through WMDs. Not only did they have no accountability, they got rewarded by becoming the stewards of these networks, and they lied to millions of people for 3 straight years, and huge amounts of accountability is needed.
And what he's doing here is he's taking a page from Matt Taibbi's article. If you haven't read, I'm sure you've seen it, John, but if you haven't read this yet, Matt Taibbi literally says this is our generation's weapons of mass destruction. And that's a different tactic. I like that one a little better than climate change, although that's underway as we speak, that scam. But the weapons of mass destruction was a media and press failure. Massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple people died, so I don't think they should feel bad about it. The funniest thing, which is quite Orwellian, is the list of pundits that the White House sent to TV producers. Did you see this?
No, I did not see this.
They sent a note. Hold on. I'll bring it up here. And the note says, it's Director of Communications for the President. As you know, Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report found that no one associated with President Donald J. Trump's 2016 campaign colluded with Russia, despite repeated offers from Russia-linked operatives. The special counsel also made no recommendation on obstruction, which is a decision in itself. Using the information provided by Mueller, the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General determined that there was no obstruction. This is all the result of the special counsel's 2,800 subpoenas, 500 search warrants, 500 witness interviews, 40 FBI agents, 19 lawyers, $25 million in taxpayer funds, and a partridge in a pear tree. The only way to interpret these conclusions is a total and complete vindication of President Trump. The issuance of these definitive findings comes after 2 years of Democrat leaders and others lying to the American people by vigorously and repeatedly claiming there was evidence of collusion. They made many of these false claims without evidence on your airwaves. The list of guests who made outlandish false claims include, but are not limited to. So here's the list. We have a list.
A list.
A media list. Blumenthal. And they have little examples of what each of these people said. Blumenthal, quote, "The evidence is pretty clear there was collusion between Trump and the Trump campaign and the Russians." Adam Schiff. "I think there's plenty of evidence of collusion or conspiracy in plain sight." Gerald Nadler. "There was obviously a lot of collusion. The question is, how high?" Eric Swalwell. "In our investigation, we saw strong evidence of collusion." DNC Chairman Tom Perez. "And over the course of the last year, we have seen, I think, a mountain of evidence of collusion." Former CIA Director John Brennan. "I called this behavior treasonous, which is to betray one's trust and to aiding and abetting the enemy. And I stand very much by that statement." And then they conclude by saying, "Moving forward, we ask you employ basic journalistic standards when booking such guests to appear anywhere in your universe of productions. You should begin by asking the basic question: does this guest warrant further appearance in our programming given the outrageous and supported claims made in the past? ? At minimum, if these guests do reappear, you should replay the prior statements and challenge them They should have just put together a package and sent it to them. I'm going to ask them to do this. No one's going to do this.
Of course not.
But I think it's
and not only that, guys like Schiff who are really kind of douchebags, they can weasel their way out of it. Well, you know what I meant? What I meant was this. And, well, I still think there's some evidence, and it's just a shame that it didn't get, it wasn't that obvious. And so we're going to do some more investigation. I mean, that guy.
I just think it's unique that a White House or president sends out a list of people you should not have on.
It's like a blacklist.
It is a blacklist.
But it doesn't work as a blacklist because it doesn't stop anything. If it was a true blacklist, it would be more onerous.
Who knows what's out there?
Who knows?
So there's a million.
Sounds like something Kellyanne Conway did.
It does.
It does.
Yeah,
it has all the elements of a Kellyanne Conway release.
Yeah. That sounds really weird when you think about the money shot and her release.
Whoa.
Hey, I may be sick, but I'm not dead. Yeah. So there's a million clips that, of course, Fox is just hitting this to death with everyone who was wrong. And now it kind of seems there is a new twist to the talking point. I think it's now we go from, well, okay, there was no collusion, but why is he so nice to Russia?
How's he nice to Russia? He's put more sanctions on them than anyone.
Yeah, but that's not seen. No one's. In fact, where's the?
Well, they don't report it because they don't. It doesn't fit the narrative, as people like to say.
Just yesterday, was it yesterday? The day before yesterday, Trump was sitting down with Guaido's wife.
Yeah, Guaido's wife.
Very odd press conference. And she had a couple people with her, and one of these people was talking to the president, saying, "Well, I guess my husband or someone's been, arrested. Don't know where he is," and he's listening to it. And then the press asked a question about Russia.
We are with Venezuela. We are with
after this. Sorry,
your husband, as you know, and you're with the people that he represents, which is a big majority of the country. What's happening there should not happen and be allowed to happen anywhere. So we're with you 100%. Okay? Please give my regards. It'll all work out. It's all going to work out. It always does. We're going to get it to work out. Thank you very much. It'll be fine. Steve?
Mr. President, what sort of complications does the Russian involvement now pose?
Russia has to get out.
Did you see this? He has a very angry look on his face. Russia's got to get out. No. So he's not very nice to Russia. It's just you never see it. And so that seems...
the Russia thing this is an interesting situation because the people who are siding with Venezuela and Maduro, really, they're siding with the wrong side of, well, I'm not going to say the term wrong side of history, but it seems like this is not, it's not justified. The country's, according to everyone who writes in, economic hitmen and others, the country is really a military dictatorship that is run by, that the military, really, they have the control. As Maduro's kind of just a front man. And it's not been the country's people are losing weight. A great place for weight loss because they can't eat enough food. It's a mess. It needs to be cleared up. And so Russia goes in there for what purpose? To keep us from getting the oil fields, I guess, maybe because they didn't get a piece of the action. Maybe we should have cut them in.
Well, this is all on Trump's mind because from the same press briefing, the truth always wants to come out. We're thinking about Venezuela, the country. The president thinks differently.
Venezuela was a country with tremendous potential and is still a country with tremendous potential. But people are starving. They're being killed. They're being beaten. What's going there is unfathomable to everybody that sees and everybody that gets reports. We're getting reports that are horrible. The potential of Venezuela, if done properly and with democracy, would be incredible. It was one of the richest companies, certainly one of the truly rich countries of the world, and now it's one of the poorest countries of the world. You look at what
he's a country company, and why is he thinking that?
It's happened despite oil. The oil's not coming out.
He's all over the oil. He doesn't give a crap about the country. He's thinking about the company.
You know, people like to slam him for various things, but I don't know when he became an oil guy. And he had oil on the mind when he put that Exxon guy in charge of the State Department who just was no good.
Tillerson.
What?
Tillerson. Rex Tillerson.
Yeah, Tillerson.
Mm-hmm.
He was just a kind of a bumbler. And, of course, then he blamed Trump. And but it was the oil had to be on his mind when he put a guy like that in charge of the State Department, thinking maybe the guy should go out and do. I think he made the mistake that the public generally makes, because I don't think Trump was ever in the oil business. But I think Trump made the mistake that the public generally makes, which I've experienced because I worked at an oil refinery, and then I was an air pollution inspector at a different oil refinery, and I know from experience that when you're on one side of the aisle, it's you're putting the clamp on the oil company. If you're working for the oil company, you're going to do the opposite. You can do the switch. You can switch from being an oil guy to being a not oil guy, being a regulator, let's say, which is what Tillerson did. Because he was oil guy, big shot oil guy. Now he's going to be State Department, so he divorced himself from the oil business. I think Trump was susceptible to the public's thinking that if you're ever involved with the oil companies, you're always an oil guy looking out for the benefit of oil guys.
Right.
That's bullcrap, and that's how Tillerson screwed up. Because he never went out and did a bunch of oil deals. He was trying to do what a State Department guy is supposed to do, and run the State Department.
Right.
And I think Trump has got, for some reason, he really got oil on his mind when he talks about Iraq. He always says we should have taken the oil.
Yes.
And now we're supposed to be taking the oil out of Venezuela. It's just, I don't know what happened that made him, and nobody's noticed this, by the way. He's just gone from a real estate guy to an oil guy. He talks very little about real estate.
Only when it comes to North Korea.
Yeah, they got no oil.
Exactly. What can I real estate. Yeah, beachfront property. Yeah. Well, it's troubling. Because honestly, I'm a little confused. I'm on one hand, I want to believe the people who we hear from and there's a lot of evidence that it really is bad in Venezuela. On the other hand, come on, this Guaido guy, I mean, give me a break. This is just a failed coup at this point.
I'm
bringing his wife in.
With the Obama clone.
Right. So, I don't know if he's really invested in that, but when he's talking about the company Venezuela, I don't know.
Well, this is a stillborn so far. They have not, our CIA, who's supposed to be orchestrating this, has not done a very good job.
Well, they haven't done a very good job.
Unless they've been cut out of the deal, and it's just the State Department, which is possible, and they're boneheads too, apparently. We don't know. We don't know what group is behind it because there's too much. It's been covered up pretty well. It has to be either the State Department or the CIA. It has to be one of the two.
Yeah, it can't be both.
Can't be both.
Can't be both.
And it has to be one of them.
Yeah. With Dick Morris, wasn't he was an advisor to Clinton, President Clinton?
I believe.
Did he leave in disgrace, or did they have a falling out? Or
no, he had some sexual thing, maybe with something, or he was. I don't know. It's good. You can look it up on the Wikipedia, but yeah, Dick. But he's always around writing books, and he's always pontificating about campaigns. He's just kind of been. He's not part of the mainstream anymore in terms of.
Well, he wrote an op-ed for what is it? The Western Journal. So yeah, he's not mainstream anymore, and.
That would, in the olden days, that would have gone to the Wall Street Journal and New York Times.
The myth of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin now stands exposed as the greatest political hoax in American history, and it was Hillary Clinton's hoax. And he goes into the whole background, the dossier. I just found it surprising that he would write that. I don't think he's getting any invites for any TV appearances from it, but it's a pretty good piece.
Well, he's another guy that's been marginalized from the TVs.
Do you think so? It seems like that Trump is more than hinting that now we're going to go after these people so this never happens to any president again.
Yeah, he's hinting, but I think your earlier assertion, I think 1 or 2 shows ago,
The cleanup, the mop up.
that is a mop-up operation.
And I was thinking about that. Couple of things. If Mueller, so first of all, Mueller may just have bad feelings about his involvement in 9/11. You know, he was kept on 2 extra years against the law in the Obama administration, against the mandatory no longer than 10 years as FBI director.
Right.
He was part of the Patriot Act, and he came in just 2 weeks before 9/11. So there was a lot of hustling and covering up that he had to do, and maybe he had some remorse. So he came in, and as far as I can see, everyone who was a bad actor in this, he got out. Everyone's been extracted. Everyone's been retired, fired, quit, gone. You know, there's that Professor Halper is not. We don't even know if he's on in this universe. I mean, there's a lot of.
He's alive.
Yeah, people have just kind of disappeared. They've gone away. And when you think about the sequence of events where, okay, Hillary did not become president. Shit, oh my God, we've got so much to clean up because we had all these things set up. God knows what else there was.
And Hillary herself said they were all going to be hanging
from nooses. And then Comey, he helped with the mop up by saying, oh, it's just, you know, as Loretta Lynch says, it's a matter and we're not going to prosecute. She did bad things, but nothing to prosecute about. And that was a cover up. That was covering up for her. And then he got fired, and that's when the shit hit the fan, and that's when Mueller had to come in. Good friends with Comey, you know.
Oh, to finish the mop-up job.
Yes, yeah.
So your new assertion is that Comey was doing the mopping up.
He was not doing a very good job.
The situation stopped, and they had to.
I also think that the way he mopped up, he messed it up, because instead of just mopping stuff up, he came out and started doing, you know, like announcements and press briefings.
He was a foul up.
Yeah, so he messed it up, and that's when Mueller had to come in. And it's very possible that this conclusion, just as a quid pro quo to keep everybody happy, it's very possible this Mueller conclusion of no collusion, made another rhyme, was already known before the midterm elections, but that he kept it going. Because can you imagine if it came out just before the elections, there would have been just bloodletting. And
right, but he couldn't let it go to 2020.
No, absolutely not. Now, it seems like some
now we're back to even playing field, seemingly.
Kind of. Anyway, big sigh of relief for me. We won't have to report on this anymore. It's all over. It's done, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. It's true. It's true.
That's true is the way it goes.
That's true. Wait, I have a thing for you. Where is it?
That's true.
I got a lot of people love that.
Yeah, apparently.
I'm a little surprised by it.
No, me.
Well, no. Well, you are John C. Dvorak, but I got stuff like this.
We welcome in ISIS. That's true.
Yeah, that.
We can just use it from time to time.
We welcome in ISIS.
Yes, that's
which is
true.
kind of an ironic thing because it has a double meaning. It has ISIS and ISIS.
Yeah.
ISIS, the goddess, and ISIS, the
yes.
jerk-offs in Syria.
Now, I see you have a clip, and I'm happy because I don't, but I do have an explanation of this being the darkest day for the internet. And this pertains to the European Union passing, at least in the Parliament, Article 11 and Article 13 of the new copyright directive.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to mention that this was not on any main. I didn't see this on CBS, ABC, NBC. I only got it from Democracy Now! Another example of where these other guys are just still covering Mueller and the fallout and the rest of it and some minor other stories.
Oh, yeah.
Global warming was big this week.
Yeah.
And so I got this from Democracy Now! I mean, I'm sure one of the networks talked about it a little bit, but I I never picked it up.
In Brussels, the European Parliament's approved a massive overhaul of copyright laws that critics say will bring widespread censorship to the Internet. One measure would effectively tax Internet sites like Google when they display snippets of copyrighted material, including news articles. Another measure will likely prompt sites like YouTube to install filters that search for and then automatically delete uploads that are determined to be copyright violations. Ahead of Tuesday's vote, the proposed copyright rules prompted massive protests with more than 100,000 people marching in cities across Europe over the weekend. In a statement, Open Media Executive Director Laura Tribe said, quote, "Today's vote is a major blow to the open Internet. This directive positions the Internet as a tool for corporations and profits, not for people," she said.
So this was, it was all over the webs. A lot of articles, a lot of many policy groups and think tanks weighed in, as you can imagine. And this is something we've been following on the show for quite a while. Article 11 is the so-called text tax. I'm going to leave that for what it is for just a moment. That's more about Google News more than anything. Article 13, which did change a little bit in this final draft or final directive that was approved by the Parliament, which, by the way, doesn't mean that it's law.
No, the Parliament's really just it's almost like just bull crap.
It's like an attaboy. It's like, yes, good one. We like that one. Good one. Since it's a directive, there will be no EU organization that oversees it. This needs to be implemented by the member states themselves in their own manner appropriate to their locale for as long as that lasts, while they still have some sovereignty left. So none of this will really be implemented before 2021. If you look at the timeline of what has to happen, a lot of people were scared, just frightened that this was somehow going to ruin the internet. We'll never be able to post memes. Fair use will go away. All of these horrible things. And I'm here to tell you that this is nothing but a well-orchestrated EU scam, and it's well done. And I would not have known it unless the CDU in Germany had played their hand. And I also, follow the money is really what you need to do. And maybe we should step back for a second and explain how performing rights organizations operate. There are organizations in every country, just to name a few. You have ASCAP, BMI, you have GEMA in Germany, you have CSAC, which is mainly France, but it's overall, I think it's a worldwide organization. You have Buma Stemra in the Netherlands. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And these organizations have statutory right to collect money when copyrighted work is used. And
but you have to be a member.
You have to be a member to receive money from that. But these are the people. I mean, go ahead and if let's say there's a farmer's market, and you just go up there with your DJ set and you start playing some tunes, and you do that on the Saturday. Maybe not the first Saturday, but the second Saturday, someone will come up to you and say, "Hey, man, do you have a performance license for this? Do you have a venue license?" No,
this is true. That's true.
It's true. That's true. If you have a workshop, a garage, and you play the radio, and there's more than 5 employees, then you also have to pay royalties.
If you're a liquor store playing music over the system, that somebody just brought their CD to work and decided to pipe it in.
This is why you often will hear really crap music, because that is stuff that's been performed at outside of the royalty system. It's not royalty free, but you can make a separate deal. But mostly people want to hear and see the music that they're interested in, popular things or films, etc. So these rights organizations, they collect all the money, and then through a number of very magical...
Do you know what the fee is, by the way?
The fee, what do you mean? To be a member?
What do they collect per song?
Well, they collect everything. They collect all the money.
No, I know they collect, but okay, I'm a radio station. I just played 10 songs.
Well, this
songs. What do I owe them?
You already went straight to the punchline. Radio stations, although they do have to mark down what they played, it's impossible, obviously, for everything to be, well, not impossible, but over the years, the way it's come down is there are these things called a blanket license. And a radio station, which sometimes will be the network, etc., will have a blanket license to play whatever they want from whatever genre, wherever, whenever. some cut different deals to restrict it to just a certain type of music. But it's all, yeah, there's guidelines of how much you'll pay, but ultimately it's a percentage of revenue. That's how it's done. And the CDU, German political party, when this came up, and by the way, there also seems to be some dealings between France and Germany, the German coalition in the European Parliament. They really wanted this, and France is very particular about protecting their artists in every sense of the word. And Germany didn't really want to get on board, but then apparently France said, well, we'll vote yes on your new pipeline with Russia, the Nord Stream 2, if you sign up to Article 13. That's just what I'm hearing. I have no proof of it, but I wouldn't put it past them. Wouldn't put it past them. So, of course, there's no way you can have They can't even filter. They can't even get the New Zealand video off their server. So there's no way you can filter people uploading stuff to check and see if it has a content ID. However, the CDU proposed, and this is what's going to happen. This is how they'll implement it. So where Germany goes, so go we all. Blanket license. And that means that Google, Facebook, any platform that makes money, that will be the beginning. That monetizes will have to
pay
where you're headed. A blanket license, and everyone will have a content ID if you're a member of the organization, and then somehow magically you'll get something out of the back end. But you look at the music industry, look at royalties lawsuit, and see how many artists from the smallest to the largest are always suing the rights organizations, the labels, etc., because it's a horrible, rotten business and people steal your money. And just like the EU is grabbing money from Google, I'm not saying that they're not right to do it, for anti-competitive practices, whatever they can, they will get billions and billions of dollars, and it goes right into the rights organizations. And that's who was out there. It was Jean-Michel Jarre.
You're kind of de-emphasizing the actual punchline to this, which is if they're going to have a blanket license, it has to be based on revenue. And who better to go after than Google?
Google and Facebook. Those are the guys. I'll take 1% of their revenue. I'll take 1%. I'll take 1%. So that's what it's about. It's just soaking those. And by the way, I'm all for it. Screw those guys.
These guys.
They're soaking them. They're soaking them. And notice you don't read about it here because we have something called the, section 230? I can't remember now. There's so many sections, which states if someone uploads any kind of work that is uploaded to a platform, as long as they're treated like a library. That's Section 230, I think it is, the Communications Decency Act. Am I right? It's either 230 or 205. I can't remember right now. I'm fuzzy. And in that, it says the only thing the platforms cannot be held liable for any kind of human rights violation, copyright violation, or otherwise. However, if they receive a takedown notice, they have to use expediency to take down the violation, and that's what we see here in the States. And that's kind of been working, although, I think this is a good model for the rights organizations in the U.S. They would love to have this. They would just love to have it. So that's not being discussed very much for obvious reason. So it's not going to ruin the internet. You won't be, there won't be filters that you can't upload. And by the way, it's not like Amy said, it's not the open internet. Facebook and Google are not the open internet. They're the closed walls. The open internet is this show sitting on a server in Canada. And you get it straight to your whatever you want, just direct connection. We don't go through Facebook or Google or Twitter. We don't need any of that. That's the open internet. Although I will say, if there's a way we can get in on this action, get a piece of that blanket license revenue, I'm all for it. I'm down for it.
That's not going to happen.
I'm down for it. So that's the global issue right now. And, and I like Jean-Michel Jarre. He's head of CSAC. He's the president of CSAC, and he was out there. And Cyndi Lauper, I think she's on behalf of either ASCAP or BMI. And I understand it. They've been ripped off for 20 years by these companies. Now, the real problem, I think, is these PROs, the performing rights organizations. They're the ones that are actually not, they got nice buildings. Let's put it that way. They throw good parties. The Grammys, it's like that's all ASCAP. It's actually more BMI than anything.
And the other thing is that unlike in the 20s and 30s, actually there's some interesting things that took place in the music industry. The only people that get the ASCAP money are the writers.
Writer and composer. And
that's what I meant.
Yeah, so the separate deal for the performer, separate deal for the producer. But producers can get a deal. A producer can get a deal with
Roger,
points.
Yeah, it's rare. Roger McGuinn tells me that the Byrds songs don't get any money, but he gets tons. Because he was the writer of a lot of the songs.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
And so you get that money. He gets, and he never will tell me the check he gets. He gets a monthly check from ASCAP.
Well, this is also his main issue is a lot of his songs are from before 1974, which has a whole different issue, and is now
that's a whole. They're trying to resolve that.
Well, though they're resolving it, Sirius XM resolved it, and if you look at, I have a Sirius XM for streaming, and every month at the on the bill it says, "Oh, here's your extra $5." I think it's $1.75 or maybe it's $2. For pre-1974 copyright that I have to pay for, making me pay for it.
What if anybody gets any money? But
Roger
McGuinn whole thing
does.
Is a very interesting system. And when I was working in public radio with my talk shows, we had a free license for everything. Apparently, all public radio. Because I guess they can't nick them for anything because it's a percent of royalties.
It's a big thing of contention with the rights organizations. They hate that.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, they hate that. Yeah.
So you get to use all the stuff you want anytime you want for whatever purpose. College stations would qualify in that area too.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, as we've discussed before, the online guys, we're an online radio station, can't take advantage of any of this.
Can't get a license. We can't get a license.
Can't get a license.
No. Well, you can for streaming but then they don't take into account Adam and John sitting down, shooting the shit, playing some songs. That's not possible because you have to deliver a log file. Because I think the only thing people are interested in is playlist stations that have playlists of songs. No, you can't do free form. I've been looking into a couple of things that do allow you to do certain things, but also if you play a mashup, sorry, you can't do that. So the real future of the music business is being hampered by these very organizations. And ultimately, you could work out a technical solution for tracking usage, blockchain, whatever. I'll just say blockchain. Everyone will believe me.
Blockchain.
It can be done. It can be done. Blockchain.
That's the solution. Blockchain.
Put me in the European Parliament.
I tell you, blockchain combined with AI.
Woo,
boom.
baby. Isn't that what? Yeah, that's right. Blockchain AI with some machine learning thrown in for good measure.
Yeah.
So, no worries, people.
Well, that's your lecture, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it for today. And then we have a little standing in this area. So
you more than me.
Wouldn't be too worried.
So, well, we can go on from there to the couple of other issues that came up, unless you want to.
You want. Now, how many times have you told me you're going to do something about the chair?
Oh, yeah. I keep getting so many notes saying, no, don't touch the chair.
Yeah, I know. It's become one of those now.
I'm touching the chair, but when it happens, you'll never know. It'll just all of a sudden be dead silent. I'm just warning you.
I think it's time for
I do have to make an announcement. The guy who does MailChimp is back on the job.
Oh.
And that the nonsense about MailChimp being dead, MailChimp, not MailChimp, Squirrel Mail. The guy who does Squirrel Mail is back on the job, and all the bull crap that you said on the air is just what it is. Bull crap.
I was only reading from the reports that PHP needs to get rid of Squirrel Mail.
I specifically asked the Squirrel Mail guy.
The guy from Squirrel Mail.
the guy who invented it, and the guy who he says, there hasn't been anything going on because I haven't done anything in a couple of years, and I'm the only one who works on it. So as we speak, and I have an account with him, and I have Squirrel Mail, and I'm looking at some of the stuff he's doing, the new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't see anything wrong with the old Squirrel Mail, personally. He's got a few new things, but I always revert back to the old Squirrel Mail anyway. But he is working on it. And
I'm good.
He warned us last weekend. He says, all Squirrel Mail users, be careful because this weekend I'm going to be working on Squirrel Mail.
Sorry.
So it's not dead.
Okay. Well, I'm happy for you.
Thinking.
No, it's not. Listen, I'm very happy that you use your Squirrel Mail. Did you? Let's do a little test. Did you receive my email about Clayton Morris? Sorry.
Well, if I was on my Squirrel Mail, I could tell you.
Well, I sent it to you 2 days ago. See, so your Squirrel Mail is not that great.
No, it's fine. It's just that probably just got Let's see what it says if I look up Adam. What about Clayton Morris?
Oh, okay. Well, this is Natalie Morris's husband.
Yeah, he's gone into real estate.
Well, there's a big New York Times expose about how he's about to be driven out of real estate by a lot of angry people. See, they were selling homes and that didn't exist, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's a pretty long report. I just thought it was interesting. I'm looking here
at your mail.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting.
The Squirrel Mail search feature.
Oh, and it worked.
I got eschatology, what separates us from UK, clip request, newsletter attached, and I was listening. I don't see anything here.
Oh. I guess it never went through. Sorry. I'll send it to you. It's for later. It's not. It's more an insider thing. Like an after show thing.
The thing about him, I watched him.
I knew you couldn't leave him alone.
He's a naturally good broadcaster.
Yeah, he never should have given that up.
He looks good on the air. He's got the right style. He's got very modern style. He could easily move into the NBC mainstream and become big shot, making millions. By the way, those guys make $10 to $15 million a year easily. Mm-hmm. The anchors. Mm-hmm. He could have gone in that direction, and he's a natural at it. I thought he looks, feels, and sounds like a broadcaster.
Yeah. Well, I think they did about $5 million in this Morris Invest thing, and it's kind of gone south on them. Several hundred people want their money back, and it's didn't turn out well. So. Oh. And the reason why we bring it up is because Natalie Morris was a John C. Dvorak discovery who we both honed. We honed her. She'd never been on camera ever before. We turned her into something pretty good for a while there.
Well, she could have been a hot shot too, but I don't think it was. I don't know. She's really a writer that looks good on camera. She's got that multi-culti look that everybody wants nowadays. That's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
On screen, talent,
yes,
because you look at it, you can't tell. Is she
worth a lot of money?
Is she Latino? Is she Italian? Is she Greek? You don't know.
Yep.
It's the perfect look and worth a lot of money. And she never pursued it with the kind of enthusiasm she could have.
I don't think she really wanted to work.
She didn't want to work.
She didn't really want to work. No. Well, with that, I'd like to thank you for your courage and say, in the morning to you, the man who put the C in Squirrel Mail, John C. Dvorak.
In the morning, you, Mr. Adam Curry. In the morning, ships to sea, boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water. The name is nice out there.
In the morning to all the trolls in our troll room.
Couldn't find my echo box.
Oh, okay. You got it? You want to do it over? You want to?
No, I don't want to do it over.
Trolls, good to see you at noagendastream.com. And that's where you can always hop in and throw out some one-liners, let us know when we're messing it up, when we're doing something wrong, correct us, or just troll. That's what it's for. I'd also like to say in the morning to our artist for episode 1123. The title of that was Cancel Culture. And Adam at Sea, has he ever had artwork chosen? I have a feeling he has. Adam at Sea.
I had to click on his name, that thing.
It was a fun piece of art. It was the methadone ice cream truck.
Now, let me stop.
Uh-huh.
So we're at the dinner table.
Yes.
And before we talked about the show, the Nick mentions cancel culture, but he doesn't use cancel culture, but he was talking about how these people at school are talking about how people get canceled. They went on and on about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I, without even knowing, I said, we just did a show on it.
And he went, oh, that's too bad. Now I got to listen to it.
They don't do that. And so, but meanwhile, Jay, who's the artist in the family,
yes,
genuine one, she holds up her phone, which has got the show on it with the art. She says, this is the greatest art you've ever done.
Really?
She just thought that was a fantastic piece of art.
Well, hopefully you didn't take credit for it. You said it was Adam at C and not John C.
I said I did it.
Yeah, exactly. With GIMP. With GIMP. Threw that together with GIMP. Yeah, so we liked it, though. Thank you very much, Adam at C. There were a lot of interesting pieces, and it's always fun for us, certainly. And moreover, for this very reason, people look at, for as long as we're still on the platforms, people look at their podcast thing, and they say, hey, well, this is an interesting art. And that signals there's a new episode, signals maybe what's going on in it. It works. It's a very important part of the Value for Value Network, and we appreciate what all our artists do. For 1123, thank you, Adam at C, and thank you, all artists. You can check out all their work at noagendaartgenerator.com.
Yeah, and it's very it's functional in more ways than one. And there's not how many shows do you think do that?
Zero.
Every show I see just has one piece of stagnant art.
Yeah, there's a couple. From time to time, someone will say, hey, these guys got a great show. They also change their art.
Oh, okay.
But I think the whole system of...
I doubt if they change their art to the high-end art that we have.
That's incredible.
Our artists are just up there.
We have over 13,000 pieces of art in the database.
Yeah.
So, catch up, kids.
It's actually... ridiculous. Aaron Christensen isn't ridiculous, though. He came in with $362.69. And that's begins our associate or executive producer list. In the morning, gents, I hope this gets in on time so I can be knighted on the Fibonacci episode. It didn't make it.
Nope. Close.
Off by one. This is my third donation, now in the amount of 33.34 euros, which should bring me up to 1,000 euros and the august title of Euro Night.
Oh, I don't think we have one.
I made that Euro Night thing up, but you guys went with it, so here we are. I just wanted to say that unlike some doubters who send notes, I always agree with everything you guys say. That's funny.
That is good.
What he's referring to is the notes that say, I don't agree with everything you say. Of course, who does? But this guy does. Especially when you're shilling for both Trump and AOC at the same time.
Right on.
Maybe I'll take sexuality. It's in your nature. Look at that juice and relationship karma. Can you believe a charmer like me is single?
It's hard to believe, Aaron from Deutschland. Well, thank you very much. And you are the top executive producer today. It's appreciated.
Tell me about this sexuality. It's in your DNA.
Oh my gosh. Can you see that juice?
You've got karma.
Got it.
That's actually a very funny
That's a good
combo.
one. Yeah.
This is a 1-2. It's not
a 1-2.
Too complicated.
1-2.
Juliana Lee, meanwhile, in Boonesboro, Maryland, came in with $360. This isn't my first donation. I used to have a subscription that got canceled by PayPal.
Oh, bastards.
I think it was a glitch. Thanks for keeping me sane in the sea of madness we're living in. My invisible no agenda hat helps me get through the day at work, where I'm surrounded by Dementia B crazies.
Oh, brother.
They're nice people, but their amygdalas have taken over, and I don't see any hope for them. I've become very good at nodding in silence when they repeat memes and when they say something stupid. I just say, that's interesting, but by interesting, I mean stupid. It works really well.
It's a good tip. That's really interesting.
Hey, that's interesting. Thanks again for all you do. I love you both. Can I please hear if You're white, you're a racist at the end of the show. It's my favorite.
No, it's not that long. We can play it now.
If you're white, you're a racist. If you're male, you're a pig. If you're cis, you are privileged. Skinny shaming if you're big. And if you're straight, you're homophobic. Heaven help if you're wrong. So don't have an opinion and just do what you're told.
Another fantastic parody from Secret Agent Paul. And thank you very much, Juliana Lee, for your contribution to the show.
So Sir Roy Pierce comes in with $334 flat from St. Pierce, which I think is a nice coincidence. St. Pierce, Florida. He sent a very small note in. Just said, John, I would expect 737 maneuvering characteristics augmentation system to have redundant angle detecting sensors and accompanying sensor agree alarm capability. And further, expect pilots to know corrective action when there is an instrument failure. Sir Roy.
Yes. Well, the backup sensor, I believe, was an extra option on the 737 Max. You had to buy it. You had to upgrade to the extra option, and there's some issues there.
Yeah. Well, so they're grounded.
Nothing else. Nothing else for Sir Roy.
This is going to hurt this company this year. Big time. Well,
so many. I see a lot of orders switching from Boeing to Airbus. Now, you never know what's true
they did
or what's...
Airbus a huge favor. They saved the company.
Airbus needed it, for sure.
Sir Tony Jedi Knighted the Coders, $269.69, becomes our first associate executive producer. And he sent an email in. Let me just take a look at it. I didn't check this.
I think that was listed as a missing email, and I don't have it.
Well, let me use Squirrel Mail and do a search.
I have a very old email from him from February.
Yeah,
but I don't have anything recent, so I don't know what happened. Send it again, good. Tony. Send it again.
How do you spell his last name on there?
It's
I got the
TGARL. I don't want to give his email out.
Well, you don't give his email. I just need the name. He's not on Gmail, so it doesn't,
He is on Gmail. He is on.
Boy, talk about missing that one. Okay. I'll just go back and look. Okay.
I already played the Squirrel Mail. Can't play it again. But it's performing fantastically. I'm glad that I'm glad that it's not going away. It hasn't been retired. That's fabulous. Maybe we'll just have to have him.
I'm looking at it. It says no mail found.
Okay,
and I'm spelling it right.
All right, Sir Tony Jedi Knight of the Coders, please resend. Send it to me.
Yeah, I got nothing here.
All
right. Onward. Sir Hank Scorpio of the Electrical Grid. Okay, he's in Gatineau, Quebec, 264. He's also associate executive producer. He's got a birthday. ITM John and Adam, 264 is 11 times 24. Great shows of late. I don't know what 11 times 24 is about. I don't know. Great shows of late. I would like to wish Sir Dwight the Knight a happy 31st birthday.
He's on the list.
I'd also like to request some jobs karma for our mother and myself. No Agenda NA producer is on my resume, so the job should be pretty much in the bag.
Absolutely. It's good to go.
He came, we saw, he died. That's true. And Jordan Peterson, that's wrong. I forgot I had that one. That's wrong.
That's good. I like that.
That's a good combo. Yeah. Thank you for your courage.
Sir Hank Scorpio of the Electric Good. Thank you, sir.
That is the land of unconfirmed.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
That's true.
That's wrong.
Jobs, and jobs.
I like
Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
Very creative, Sir Hank. Creative. I like it.
Yeah, that's true. That's wrong. I like it. Meanwhile, Dame Astrid, the Duchess of Japan, came out $222.22 from Tokyo.
Our favorite Dame Astrid.
She says, It's true.
That's true.
Thank you always from Cherry Blossom Paradise, Dame Astrid, Duchess of Japan, and all the disputed islands of the Japanese Sea, Japan Sea.
Good to hear from you, Dame Astrid. Hope all is well.
For that.
Hope all is well.
Always good to hear from you.
Yes.
Stephen or Stefan Kunkel. We have to consider the pronunciation of that first name, which is always, when I was a kid, and you've always thought this, has always been pronounced Stephen.
Yes.
But ever since Stephen Curry came around,
but this is with the
he's
EN.
mucked it up.
Okay.
He's mucked it up.
Yep.
$201 even from Atlanta, Georgia. Just a quick note to the creators of the greatest podcast in the universe from a member of the Generation X. I started listening about 15 months ago, and I've been enriched ever since. As a mergers and acquisitions professional for over 20 years, I can attest that you are on point most of the time when major corporate news events lead you to consider the merger takeover angle. In fact, I've worked at a Big Four firm in London 2005 to 2008. And one of the services we offered the board of directors of large corporation clients was called the bidder defense, which is basically a deep dive into any and all skeletons in the company's closet, including lawsuits, corruption allegations, senior management's shady background, such as hostile divorces, online videos, DUIs, etc. That could any of these can cause a drop in price, thus making the company vulnerable to a potential hostile takeover.
Yes.
We would alert the board of these matters so that they could mitigate/prevent any fallout. Keep up the good work, homies. Please play the Obama Mexican no hey sound clip.
Hey, listen. No. You're in my house. Hey. Come on, guys. No. Shame on you. Hey. Okay. No. I'm up in the house. Hey. Drinking the booze. No.
Hey. All right. Did you answer your phone?
We stopped. I have to go take it
You
off.
got to take that off the hook, man.
I always do, and sometimes I forget. And it's always the same people. It's a machine asking. There's only three things I get. I get a credit card company telling me I can get 0% interest.
Oh yeah,
which is bull.
Mm-hmm.
There's the ones that come in occasionally that are the a free cruise. I get a free cruise.
Oh, that's a good one. That's where you get three options, and you can get the cruise for $1. Something like that.
Yeah. It's $1.
How could that be wrong? I mean, it sounds like a perfect deal.
And there's one other one. There's a third one. They keep coming in, and one of them cracks me up because it's the if you're Blue Cross, Blue Shield, or Blue so-and-so, you can, and they'll press 4 to be taken off of our call list. You press 4, an hour later, the exact same call comes in.
Oh,
these people are just criminals. Why can't we get these people arrested?
Well, because Liz Warren is running for president. I don't know why. But the one that irks me the most is the, hello, business owner, you are no longer properly listed in Google's search index. And these
I've only gotten that once or twice ever.
And these are Google related companies. And there's a whole process to be taken off this Google affiliate, whatever bull crap. And it doesn't work. It just makes more calls.
I know, it's just a joke.
Just get more calls. It's very, very annoying.
Yeah, it's very annoying. They got to put a stop to it.
Yeah. All right. Is that it? Oh, that's it. Those are our execs and our associate executive producers for today. Our guys and any gals? Yeah, we got
a couple of
Julianne, and we got some gals. Well, thank you very much, execs and associate execs, for supporting the work here for episode 1124, the best podcast in the universe. These are the titles that are valuable anywhere credits are recognized. You already saw that we have, who was putting it on his resume? Sir Hank, Scorpio the Electric Grid. So let's see how long it takes before he gets some work. You got to check in with us, Sir Hank, and let us know. But also, it's just a way to proudly display the fact that you are a part of the Value for Value network that keeps this show going 11 years strong now, over 1,100 episodes. And we'll be thanking...
A lot of people have it on their Twitter.
Yep, the Twitter as your Twitter screen name, and of course the always productive LinkedIn. It seems to work for jobs, but it does display that you are a functional
code.
You're a functional cog in the wheel of the Value for Value Network, and it's a very special thing that we've set up together, and it's still working. I could not be happier. And we'll be thanking more people, $50 and above, in our second segment. And we will have another show on Sunday. For that, remember us at
Dvorak.org/NA.
So you can tell everybody that it is not the darkest day on the internet. Go out there and propagate it.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
That's true.
That's wrong.
Shut up,
Yeah, I'm loving that combo. I'm loving that combo.
All right.
Yes. All right. Should we do Smollett for a second? Because I there's a lot of stuff.
I don't have
with
it.
this.
Do I have any Smollett?
No, I do. I got a ton of
up to you.
Yeah, I got Smollett stuff.
It was a pretty funny situation, but it turns out to be some sort of. They're going to now. I hear the FBI is going to investigate the state attorney.
For those who haven't heard about it, well, actually, here's Brian Stelter from CNN right after the charges were dropped. Emergency hearing, emergency court appearance. That's a new one to me. If your charge is going to be dropped, it's like, oh, emergency. Everybody, all media, come to me, come to me. I think Stelter from CNN summed it up in the way it was meant to be, what it was supposed to pack out to be.
You know, you remember right after Smollett said he was the victim of a hate crime in Chicago that night, the Fox Network, the studio, the Empire cast and crew all had his back, supported him very strongly. That continued as it became a mystery about what happened and whether he had made this up. The network continued to support him, but started to pull back a little bit in those public statements. Right now, there's no new comment from Fox, but this is a key part of the story, Nia, because I do think he wants to get back to work. That's what a friend of Smollett just said to me. He wants to act. He wants to get back to work. He had actually been taken off 2 of the episodes of Empire. His future as a Hollywood actor has been in limbo for the past few weeks. So his lawyers have been trying to get to this point so that he can return to work. So far, no comment from the network, but I do think we will see Smollett get back to work because the narrative has once again changed from victim, to villain, back to victim. It's been very confusing, as Ryan was saying. People don't know what to believe, and we may never really know what happened on the street that night in Chicago. But for his fans, for his friends, this is a triumphant moment that he can now get back to what he wants to do, which is work.
Well, you should go flagellate yourself. That's not the word. Go beat yourself up, Stelter. That's a horrible explanation of what's happening. That's really lame. Very lame. Let's go back to the to what happened. All of a sudden, all media just stopped dead in their tracks. Oh my gosh, there's something happening. Emergency hearing, which is, I've never heard of this. Emergency hearing. Oh, and there it is. All charges dropped. However, some small caveats. There's no charges, but he still has to forfeit his $10,000 bond and community service, which he apparently already did before he committed any of the 16 felonies, which are state felonies, level 4 felonies. We'll get into that in a moment. And which kind of insinuates that the charges were dropped, but was he guilty? Was he not guilty? Well, Smollett came out right after the charges were dropped, and here's what he said.
Hey, everybody. I just made a couple notes. First of all, I want to thank my family, my friends, the incredible people of Chicago and all over the country and the world who have prayed for me, who have supported me, who've shown me so much love. No one will ever know how much that has meant to me, and I will forever be grateful. I want you to know that not for a moment was it in vain. I've been truthful and consistent on every single level since day one. I would not be my mother's son if I was capable of one drop of what I have been accused of.
By the way, I don't know about you, John, but for a guy, and I think certainly for a black man in America, when you say he's basically swearing on his mother's life, you got to be really careful with that. That, if I would not be my mother's son if a drop of this were true. There's some kind of guy code that really irks me. Like, we know he's lying, and I'll get to that in a moment. But he's sitting here just lying and saying, like on my mom. That's very. You don't do that.
Gross.
That's pussy stuff, man. That's no good.
I would not be my mother's son if I was capable of one drop of what I have been accused of. This has been an incredibly difficult time, honestly one of the worst of my entire life. But I am a man of faith, and I'm a man that has knowledge of my history, and I would not bring my family, our lives, or the movement through a fire like this. I just wouldn't. So I want to thank my legal counsel from the bottom of my heart. And I would also like to thank the state of Illinois for attempting to do what's right. Now, I'd like nothing more than to just get back to work and move on with my life. But make no mistakes, I will always continue to fight for the justice, equality, and betterment of marginalized people everywhere. So again, thank you for all the support. Thank you for faith, and thank you to God. Bless y'all. Thank you very much.
All right, be very careful, son. Thank you, God, and all this stuff. Thank you for faith and my mom. And when you're lying like that boomerang could come back pretty hard. So there were a couple of responses to this. First of all, you heard Brian Stelter like, oh, well, hopefully he can just get back to work. We'll never know what happened. Yeah, that's how it will read in 5 years when Jussie Smollett comes back, and all we'll remember is, well, all the charges were dropped. We won't really remember what happened, so let's document it now. The superintendent of the Chicago police, who was very vocal about this hoax that Smollett perpetrated, who, as an African-American man, was very angry about the noose bit and just pulling a racial hate crime hoax. He had a response.
When I came on this job, I've been a cop now for about 31 years. When I came on this job, I came on with my honor, my integrity, and my reputation. If someone accused me of doing anything that would circumvent that, then I would want my day in court, period, to clear my name. I've heard that they wanted their day in court with TV cameras so America could know the truth, but no, they chose to hide behind secrecy and broker a deal to circumvent the judicial system. My job as a police officer is to investigate an incident, gather evidence, gather the facts, and present them to the state's attorney. That's what we did. I stand behind the detective's investigation. I'll let Mary Emanuel comment further.
And the police, this file, by the way, was never closed or locked or sealed, just his arrest record, but the file is open, available, it's in the show notes. You can see all the evidence is there that this was a hoax, that how it was perpetrated. It's pretty extensive. So right after the police chief, the mayor, Rahm Emanuel, he steps up and he says something important here.
Second is what I would call the ethical cost. And the ethical cost is you have, as a person who was in the House of Representatives when we tried to pass the Shepard legislation that dealt with hate crimes, putting them on the books, that President Obama then signed into law, to then use those very laws and the principles and values behind the Matthew Shepard hate crimes legislation to self-promote your career is a cost that comes to all the individuals, gay men and women, who will come forward and one day say they were a victim of a hate crime who now will be doubted. Now this casts a shadow of whether they're telling the truth, and he did this all in the name of self-promotion. And he used the laws of the hate crime legislation that all of us collectively over years have put on the books to stand up to be the values that embody what we believe in. This is a whitewash of justice.
A whitewash of justice. Very interesting choice of words. Yeah. Particularly when it comes to a race crime. But Emanuel makes a good point. He says this was not any crime that was hoaxed. It was a hate crime, a very specific kind of crime, which is discussed quite often. Now, is it the attorney for the state, Kim Foxx? Is she the attorney? What do you call her?
I think she's a state attorney.
State attorney. She had recused herself because there's a lot of involvement. There's a lot of contact between Tina Chen, Tchen. She was chief of staff for the First Lady, but she was also special assistant to President Obama. And there were text messages back and forth between Kim Foxx, the state's attorney, and Tina Chen. And there was, hey, can you do something? Can we move this over to the feds? That would be better. They're really trying to figure out a way to get Smollett off the hook. And if you see all the different links between everybody, interestingly, Rahm You have all these different connections, and it seemed very obvious.
And we should mention something. Because of that connection there and being the wife, she's going to tell Rahm what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think is part of his anger.
Yes, that his wife hung him out to dry, and the cops. And I tell you, it's not a good idea. I don't know much, but you don't mess with Chicago PD. It's just, it's not a good idea. However, what is really going on? What happened here? There was a call was put in by someone, and you have all the players there, so you can see, obviously, this guy needed to be bailed out. Now, was it a part of something else? Is it a coincidence that his lawyer is Garagos, the same guy who was implicated as being a part of the Avenatti scam just the day before? I don't know if that's related, but they got Kimberly Fox on tape explaining what happened. And she's a very interesting state's attorney. If you watch her answering these questions, it's about a 13-minute interview. Only got two clips from her because the essence is in it. It looks like she wants to cry the whole time. And she has this look of acknowledging. She'll say, yeah. It's like no other states attorneys, district attorneys, attorney generals. They have this, they have this stoic, like, the buck stops here kind of thing. And she's like a millennial almost. I don't know how old she is. She's 36, actually. She's like a millennial. And she explains it in the following manner. There is an alternative prosecutorial route in the state of Illinois. An alternative, which is meant for people who have committed a crime, is kind of like, Los Angeles or San Francisco. If it's under a certain threshold, we can let you off. You don't have to go to jail. You don't have to admit any guilt. You're not exonerated, and you lose your bond. It has a particular name, and it's not new, and here she is explaining it.
Certainly. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office has what we call our alternative prosecutions unit, where we look at how can we handle cases outside of the criminal justice system, ways in which we can do what we call pretrial diversion. Over the course of the last 2 years, we've had 5,700 people go through our pretrial diversion process, people who have nonviolent offenses and who have no violence in their background. And so I think when people see this one particular case, it feels like an outlier, where in fact it's consistent with how we treat people charged with similar offenses with the same background. And so, what I would tell people is that, we have, traditional prosecution models, and we also have alternative prosecution models. And based on the facts and the evidence in this case, this was the appropriate model that we used.
So this was not a factor of celebrity or privilege, which is what people are screaming right now. Was there any sort of, and I mean, obviously it's obvious, but just to speak to all of the words that are out there right now, I mean, celebrity and privilege, was there any role that played in this situation?
Mr. Smollett was afforded the same opportunity that anyone in Cook County who had a nonviolent offense and the required background would be able to get. We believe, that people who have, the celebrity of Mr. Smollett don't make up the vast majority of the people who come through our justice system. The men and the women who qualify for this program are generally people who have little means. The fact that 5,700 people have come through our diversion and alternative prosecution programs speaks to the fact that it's available for everyone. The reality is, though, that most people don't know who they are. Mm-hmm. And so you don't hear their stories. But this is not in any way different than we've treated others who've been charged with similar facts and with the same background.
So, alternative prosecution. Very interesting.
It's very interesting, and why don't they call it what it is? Alternative non-prosecution. But anyway, go on.
Well, so here's what I don't understand, and this is what I think Rahm Emanuel, what he said is important, and what the interviewer did not ask. This is not just some fly-by-night felony. She says it's the lowest, it's number 4, it's the 4th felony, class 4, it's not a big deal. But it involved a hate crime. You cannot tell me that the alternative prosecution system allows for people who were involved in a hate crime. The hate crime is put on the books specifically to put heavier punishment on any type of crime. If you beat someone up and you pour bleach on them and you call them the N-word and the F-word, that's a crime, but it's a specific type. You get extra punishment for being a hate crime. So to let him off for hoaxing a hate crime is total bullshit. But it is a let him off. He is not innocent, and she does explain that in her own terms.
This is looking at what remedies were available under the statute. And as far as accountability is concerned, the statute allows for people to get this type of outcome even without an admission of guilt. But the accountability comes, Mr. Smollett has to forfeit $10,000 in order for him to be able to be in this position. And so while he has chosen to use this as an opportunity to maintain his innocence, I would reassure the people of Cook County that he would not be in the position that he is in right now without the assurance that that $10,000 would be forfeited in the community service that he has done. And for the others who participate in this program who may not have admitted guilt but also met their conditions of diversion, that is allowable under the statute.
Well, there you go. It's allowable under the statute. So no problem. You don't have to admit guilt. You can just go on television and say, I'm innocent, which he did. You can swear on your mom's life, but it's pretty clear that he did it.
Well, you should also mention that he makes $100,000 per episode on his TV show.
And it wasn't enough.
So the $10,000 is minor.
Yeah.
And what is this community service that he already did? Does anyone ever tell us what specifically he's done?
Yes. He worked 18 hours for Jesse Jackson's Rainbow
Rainbow Coalition.
Yeah. But he already did it.
Community service?
Yeah, he had already done. Look, so let's put to rest once and for all a couple things. White privilege, bullshit. This is money privilege. It's how it works in America. We've always had two Americas. Don't fool yourself. Don't kid yourself. The guy's got money. He's connected. He's connected to everybody. He's in pictures with everybody. They let him go. What he did wrong is I think that his crisis team, I don't know, it wasn't Hill and Knowlton because they're smarter than this. They're the ones that called the, emergency hearing, emergency press. We got to talk about it. So he could stand there and say, I'm not guilty, and then have all charges dropped. This is the guy who needs to be canceled. Fox needs to cancel the whole show. People need to be outraged. Where's all the millennials? Cancel. Get rid of him. They're too chicken shit to do it, actually. Even Kamala Harris, big friends with Jesse Smollett, big buddy. Does she know? Oh, my God. Oh.
You're a former prosecutor. You understand the law. What do you think about what happened to Jesse Smollett in Chicago today?
To be perfectly honest with you, Wolf, I'm completely confused.
That's how you start a lie. To be perfectly honest, I'm totally confused. Oh, you don't seem to be confused about any other questions you get.
In Chicago today.
To be perfectly honest with you, Wolf, I'm completely confused. I don't understand. I don't know. I don't know the underlying evidence. I have, there's a sealed document, obviously. I don't know. I'm at a loss. I think we're going to have to leave it up to the judgment of the prosecutor. I think we should leave it up to the judgment of the police chief and the mayor, of course, to give us some better sense of what's going on. I don't know.
And now what? She's going to double down now. Yeah. What? You want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah. She has got one of those laughing tells.
Yes. She started off with it.
Before she answered the original question, she laughed.
Yep, she did. Yeah.
That's not. Well, hold on a second. It's not funny. So why is she laughing?
Tell. It's a tell.
Yeah.
But now she's going. Now, what did Rahm Emanuel say about the hate crime?
He said it was a it took forever to establish this entire legal precedent, and to do what Smollett did is demeaning, is making it impossible for anybody else to ever be believed again.
And he said it was horrible that he had done this under the hate crime statute, that he had taken something about that laws were on the books from his buddy President Obama for hate crime. Now let's see what Kamala Harris, her takeaway from it was.
I mean, if you're confused, all of us are confused. And you heard Mayor Rahm Emanuel.
I'm confused.
He's confused.
Gee, how can this VJ this 54-year-old VJ figure it out, yet the woman running for president can't. I'm confused.
As well, and the Cook County prosecutor, he says, didn't even inform him or the police commissioner that they were to drop these charges.
But I think there's a point that the mayor made that is I would like to emphasize because I'm seeing it around the country and it is a very real issue, which is the seriousness of hate crime. And over the last 2 years, we've seen a growth of hate crime, be it in terms of race, be it religion, anti-Semitic.
Instead of understanding or saying, hey, you know, this was really bad. No, she's taking his words, the mayor's words, and saying, yeah, hate crime is horrible. We have to stop it. Just like Jussie's innocent.
Crime, Islamophobic crime, crimes against that are born out of homophobia and transphobia. We have seen an increase around our country and, frankly, around the world. And we cannot play games with it. We have to take it very seriously because it obviously can result in lethal consequences if we don't take it seriously.
All right. Well, she can never be president in my book. Horrible liars, and the lack of any kind of accountability from any media. No, that just its story's dropped. It's done. In 5 years, he may be in trouble. He may not even be. He might get an NAACP award, for an Ebony Award. Anything can happen. But this is really messed up. This guy is lower than whale poop.
Jeez, how do you feel? How do you feel?
It's really infuriating. You know,
yeah, apparently.
Well, when we see people, excuse me, with elitist privilege get a better shake all the time. But to be able to stand there and say, I'm not guilty on my mom's life, paraphrasing, I'm not guilty. The Lord, I thank the Lord, my friends. If one drop of me is what's claimed, it wouldn't be my mother's son. Let lightning strike you down, Jussie Smollett.
Maybe it will.
Or at least the show. Someone has to pay. By the way, Tina Chen, this is very interesting. So again, Tina Chen is the former chief of staff for First Lady Michelle Obama, also special assistant before that to President Barack Obama. She has been hired to do the review of workplace culture at the SPLC. Could we make it any nuttier?
Wow.
So these are the people you need to know. If you commit a race crime, a hate crime, any kind of crime, just call Tina Chen. She'll fix it up for you.
She's a fixer.
She's a big-time fixer.
Well, there's something to it.
Yeah,
Yes, well, this is all revealed, of course, in the Chicago Sun-Times in the same detail that you had it. And it's a scandal locally in Chicago right now.
Oh,
and
the cops are pissed. The cops are pissed, man.
And the cops are irked because they put a lot of work into it. First, they had to put double duty. First, they had to investigate the original fake hoax, which was a lot of time spent because it's a celebrity. And then when they found out that's bull crap, then they had to investigate all that and get these two guys, these two buddies that fake beat him up. And that took a lot of time and effort. And they put all this time and effort into this thing, which is a whole bullcrap. Then they just pulled the rug out from under him. I'd be mad, too, if I was a Chicago cop.
Well, also, look at the cops. You know, all the guys, half the guys on stage are black, African-American black. They're not black, they're brown, but they're African-American. And they took this case very personally. That's why they put so much effort into it. It's like, holy crap, they're doing this to a brother? This is no good. That's what's really egregious here. We'll see. We'll see how Jussie Smollett. You better move out of Chicago is my recommendation. Tina's from Chicago. He said it doesn't go over well. Those guys don't mess around.
No. End up with the Boston boot on your car.
Yes. Anyway, Smollett / done. Okay, good.
Okay, do you want to discuss? Just a little side note. Just want to play this clip, get it out of the way. And I want to play this as the migrant crisis clip. And I want to play it because haven't we just been listening to all the Democrats that have been, against the wall and against all this other stuff?
There's no crisis. There's no manufactured crisis. There's no emergency. There's nothing. No crisis.
Made up just so Trump could build
a
wall.
It's a hoax.
Haven't we been? Is this not been the litany?
completely.
Okay, well, let's play this clip.
The head of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol is warning that a surge of migrants has pushed the agency to its breaking point. Kevin McAleenan confirmed today that 750 agents are being reassigned in order to deal with the influx. He said he is hoping to prevent new tragedies.
But with these numbers, with the types of illnesses we're seeing at the border, I fear that it's just a matter of time. Continued inaction by Congress is going to continue to put people at risk. The vulnerable migrants on the journey in Mexico, as they cross our border, increasingly hot weather, and our own personnel.
The agency says that it detained 3,700 migrants on Monday alone. That is the highest one-day total in a decade.
Yeah, the southern border, that's talking about 100,000 in the month of April.
So I thought there's nothing going on down there.
Hey, it's just a big number. It's not an emergency. What's your number? That's 100,000, not an emergency. It's normal.
Million.
It's normal. A million. Yeah, a million a year. Yeah, I know. It seems. Yeah. I mean, you'd think at a certain point the word would go out, like, hey, the El Gringo Presidente, he's kind of building that wall, and he's not going to jail, so maybe not go.
No, how about get over while the wall's still not there?
That's probably what it is.
How about just the opposite effect?
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Go now while stocks last.
Go while the getting's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Brexit update.
Oh yes, I have a couple of things on Brexit actually.
This is hilarious.
Yeah.
Let's start with I got this Brexit rejected list on PBS. This is the stuff. This doesn't even get to the whole what's really going on, but I think it's just kind of a funny clip.
The debate over Brexit has divided the British people and political parties. For 2 years, Parliament has been unable to come to any kind of consensus. Lawmakers today tried to change that by voting on 8 different versions of Brexit. I'll get to the results in a minute, but first, listen to today's appeals of unity made by members of Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, this really is 5 minutes to midnight for this Parliament, for this government and for our country. We desperately need to find a way out of this mess. Our country has spent 2 years tied up in knots by the Prime Minister's incompatible red lines.
After years of paralysing conflict, we have a moral duty to open our minds this afternoon and reach for a compromise that will allow us to put the interminable Brexit row behind us.
It is going to be possible to end the catastrophic shambles of the last 6 months. We are beginning to talk about actually being able to take decisions founded on some sort of cross-party consensus and some search for a majority that can be sustained.
That call for consensus did not mute any mouths in Parliament, but it apparently fell on deaf ears, because take a look at the results of tonight's votes. Option 1, leave the European Union without a deal. Result, rejected. Options 2 through 5 were versions of a softer Brexit, meaning a closer relationship with Europe. Those included a frictionless relationship with the EU, an option to remain in the EU single market, an option to negotiate a permanent customs union, and option 4, the Labour Party's alternative, described as close alignment with the EU. All of those were rejected. Option 6, revoke Article 50, cancel Brexit entirely, rejected. And option 7, a second referendum, like the one that launched this process in 2016, but only after Parliament endorsed a deal, result, rejected. And option 8, basically a wish list of the people who want a complete divorce from the EU, result, rejected.
Now what? What are we going to do?
It's a comedy.
Aren't they in session as we speak, trying to figure it out what the next bit will be?
Other. This is the best thing ever. And they just reject everything. They can't come to. I don't know. And they took her power away. That's one thing they voted on today, which is earlier than the week. They said,
neutralize.
You suck. We're going to do the deal. And they kicked Theresa May aside. She's still prime minister. Kicked her aside so they could do, and that's when they came up with these 8 ideas that they reject. I don't know. It's just is becoming completely out of control.
There was an interesting couple of sessions in European Parliament. EU President Donald Tusk Do you remember the that phony baloney protest with all the pre-made signs? They said they had 1 million people on the street.
Protest of what?
Oh, to leave.
By the way, when you say every phony baloney protest,
yeah.
Oh, you
I'm
mean
sorry.
the recent one in England?
Sorry. Yeah.
When you say phony baloney protest, you're being redundant.
I know. The one with the signs that looked like they were handmade, but they weren't. Just last week. Just last week. And that coincided with that online petition where they had 4 million or 5 million
people voted.
Voted. Didn't vote. They signed the petition online.
Yeah, online, which is bull crap.
Well, listen to what that...
Give me 2 robots and I can deal with that.
Well, this is how it went down in the European Parliament.
And here let me make one personal remark to the members of this Parliament. Before the European Council, I said that we should be open to a long extension if the UK wishes to rethink its Brexit strategy, which would of course mean the UK's participation in the European Parliament elections. And then there were voices saying that this would be harmful or inconvenient to some of you. Let me be clear, such thinking is unacceptable. You cannot betray the 6 million people who signed a petition to revoke Article 50, the 1 million people who marched for a people's vote, or the increasing majority of people who want to remain in the European Union. They may feel that they are not sufficiently represented by the UK Parliament, but they must feel that they are represented by you in this chamber, because they are Europeans.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it was an EU gambit. They set it all up.
I think so. It sounds like what he said. It sounds exactly like that's what happened.
Yeah, they set it up. They set up the petition, which now is 6 million people voted. Oh, you can't ignore them. It's like a MoveOn.org petition. Are you kidding me? And the million people who marched with our made up phony baloney signs. Yeah, that was good. Guy Verhofstadt, he lost his shit.
And that is the real problem, colleagues. Why there is such a problem in this crisis? Because member states are reluctant to transfer new sovereignty and powers to the European Union. And we all know that the only way out of this crisis is a new transfer of powers to the European Union and to the European institutions.
Yeah, that's the goal.
God, I sound like Adolf Hitler.
But he's saying exactly what the problem is. You haven't given your power to us. That's the problem, you idiots! I got to play it again. I think this is an evergreen.
That is a fantastic clip. I'll give you clip of the day for it. In fact,
okay. Well, I'll play the clip of the day, and I'll play it again.
Clip of the day. And that is the real problem, colleagues. Why there is such a problem in this crisis? Because member states are reluctant to transfer new sovereignty and powers to the European Union. And we all know that the only way out of this crisis is a new transfer of powers to the European Union and to the European institutions.
Fear is freedom. Subjugation is liberation. Contradiction is truth. Those are the facts of this world. And you will all surrender to them. You pigs in human clothing.
Woo! Go EU!
They should be playing that clip in England as we speak.
It's available. I can email it to him.
Well, if anybody needs it. I will say this. That's telling it like it is. I'm not going to say the guy's not incorrect. That's what they're up to. That's what they're trying to do. And it's the new German Empire.
Yes.
It's pretty much, and you got a guy there with the German accent. I mean, come on.
Well, he's Belgian, but it sounds German.
Same thing.
And then we still have Uri Geller, who is still trying to get the do-over vote.
We need the second referendum. It was a mess. It was rigged by lies. Therefore, it was not fair. It needs to be done again. This time, I'm sure the result would be different because the British people now understand what it means. A second referendum would see the decision-making taken back to the public for a final vote on the Brexit situation. The normal British public didn't fully understand what they were voting for, and you know that. They do now.
They would object to you calling them stupid.
They do now. A referendum would be fair now that most people have a much better understanding of what it actually means to leave the EU. You know, most of the British people, including some very smart people, didn't fully understand what Brexit actually meant. We're not politicians, but many of us have taken a lot more interest in politics since this mess began, and you know that too. Yes. And now most British voters fully understand what they're voting for.
Oh, they were stupid. I get it. Even the smart people were stupid. They didn't get it. They were wrong. It was lies. How rude. I want Uri Geller to start talking about Trump.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? So he's just an open. So the idea is, of course, and we talk about this, that all these nations should give up their sovereignty, which they've spent, I would say, at least 1,000 years, sometimes more, to get to the point where they have sovereignty and they have control over their country and their countrymen.
Yeah.
To just give it to these guys and these Belgians who are really frontmen for the Germans.
Yes, jawohl.
Just give it all to them. And just give up everything. Just say, we got no more borders. We got no more culture. We got nothing. Whatever you say goes. That's what we want.
Well, I think the UK didn't, but all the other countries did that when they gave up the sovereignty of their national currency. I think that ship has sailed, but the UK was smart. And they said, we'll hedge a little bit and we'll keep our pound.
Yeah, they did that. That was a smart thing.
That's very smart. But what do you think, John? We've always said they'll never leave. We've been hoping for a second referendum so they could never leave. I don't even know if we'll get the people's vote now. I'm worried about the people's vote. The people need to vote.
Well, they voted down the people's vote in Parliament, which would seem like their opportunity because there's too many no-deal Brexiteers. It turns out there's more and more of them. In fact, as that report that I had the clip from went on and on, they said that's the closest that the vote was of all the votes.
Right.
That's the one that was almost an even vote that could easily become passed, which is the no-deal Brexit, which means that you just turn yourself over into another world organization, the World Trade Organization, and let them call the shots on your trading.
Right.
Which is the way it seems like the most logical thing to do. And they could have done that from day one. They didn't have to spend 2 years working out some scammy deal.
Well, there's big forces at work here, and I'm sure that the players we see aren't really the ones that are most important in all of this. I have a feeling there's other forces that we're not privy to and don't make it into the media that drive these things.
Well, we still have what does the Crown think, and what do they got to do with it? And they're important, even though Americans don't think so. And what does the Rothschilds think?
Yeah, well, there's two competing groups right there.
Well, they're competing, but neither one of them are going to benefit from becoming a full-time member of the EU and giving up all British sovereignty, especially the Queen.
Yeah.
I mean, well, how does the Netherlands handle it? They have a king or a duke or something.
No, the king and queen, who I broke bread with them. Don't be so diminutive about.
I wasn't diminutive. I'm just saying, what are they doing about giving up the sovereignty of the Netherlands?
Well, they're cashing in, of course.
Well, I don't think the Queen of England can cash in any more than she's done.
I don't know. The royal house is confusing to me how that still works in today's world, and and that people still believe the lie that they're just ceremonial. It's fine. Meanwhile, there's a lot of worry about will we have medicine? Will we have bread? Will we have cleaning ladies? All kinds of things they're very worried about. And the Eurostar, which goes through the Channel into France, is a big problem. And it's not necessarily Brexit, but the French, as they now have what we would call a what do we call that? A slowdown? It's not a strike, but it's a slowdown where you do everything by the book.
It's just slow down.
Yeah, well, they call it the work to the rules strike in France, and it's ongoing as we speak.
It's the third
That's
week
an old
of the,
union trick.
I'm sorry, what?
It's an old union trick.
Well, it's working well.
It's the third week of the so-called work to rule strikes. They're not real strikes by the French custom officers. It basically means that they are applying all the rules very strictly. They check all passengers, all the luggage. They ask questions. They basically apply the very strict rules that are also in place at airports when you would like to go outside Europe. This leads to queues of very long queues, and people can wait about 6 hours before they can board the Eurostar. Usually it only takes 20 to 30 minutes. So the strike is far from over. The Eurostar didn't want us let in the Gare du Nord here right behind me tonight to interview angry passengers, but I just went inside and it's now pretty calm. There's only one more Eurostar to leave today, but probably tomorrow morning with the earliest Eurostar, the chaos will commence again. And Eurostar actually advises their passengers not to travel on the Eurostar at all anymore before the 1st of April. That's next Monday.
Damn. 6 hours.
Can you imagine?
6
hours.
hours. My goodness. Yeah, Tina and I took that
going
train.
by the rules. If you go by, this is the same in American factories or any workplace. If you actually go by the rules, you can just grind things to a halt.
Yeah.
I mean, I did that when I was an inspector at Trailmobile.
You union guy, you.
Well, I wasn't just being union. I was because you're an inspector and you go by the rules. You can really bring things to a halt.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could. It was a long. It's a story I've told on the show, I think, before. But
go ahead.
Well, I'll tell it again. So I'm an inspector, which means you get a different helmet. And you work for different. You work within the company, but not for any of the people that are working there.
You had a helmet. You had a helmet.
You have a special helmet with a big stripe down the middle, which is like
cool,
kind of cool. It's a hard hat with a big white stripe,
like a white helmet.
You're like the inspector. Oh, it's the inspector. So
did you have an armband? Do you have an armband?
No armbands, unfortunately. So this one guy who I like to kind of hang out with because he was a comedian, and he'd be he was just always cracking. So I spent a lot of time with him, and his foreman comes over and chews me out for slowing him down because I was not, I should be going out and doing my job. and it gets this guy to go back to work, and I have to go back and, because I'm letting things, I'm helping things move along. I thought this wasn't, but the guy was doing his job. He's just talking to me. So I said, okay. So I went to the end of the line where everything starts coming off. And I started because I had nothing else to do. I couldn't talk to this guy. So I started red tagging everything, every little bump and little, there's a burr. Oh, there's a rivet that looks like it could be hit a few more times. And I would just tag the whole trailer coming off this line was just tagged with millions of things to fix. Next one, same thing. Next one, same thing. So the whole line stopped dead. And so the guy, I guess he got chewed out because they're not producing anything, right? Because they're spending all their time trying to fix these minor
red
flaws.
Tags, yeah.
But they were flaws that technically were taggable. I wasn't bullshitting anybody.
And
but normally you let it slide.
And
that's
what
you do.
And that's how airplanes fall out of the sky.
And so what you do is, well, with airplanes, you probably be a little more rigid, strict.
Mm-hmm.
But so the guy comes and he begs me. It was just great. He begs me to stop doing this to him.
That's great.
This guy. And he apologized for chewing out his butt, my buddy, and all the rest of it. And I just felt so good about it. I said, okay, we got it. And I just went back to normal inspecting.
So I guess maybe if we got into the podcast union, you'd be the perfect guy for it.
I'd be perfect.
And by the way, speaking of this podcast union stuff, so Spotify bought Gimlet. Was it $250 million? And of course, the Gimlet people who produced all these fine shows, they're not seeing any of that money, so they unionize because they want to get their fair share. Which the next time I come up with a brilliant idea, like I don't know, creating an internet advertising company, and I want to take it public 5 years too early, or when I invent podcasting and it's like 10 years too early. Could you remind me next time I come up with a brilliant idea to sit on my ass for 10 years? Because, man, did we miss our damn exit.
Spotify announcing plans to buy podcast company Parcast. It's the streaming giant's third acquisition of a podcast company within the last 2 months. Terms of the deal were not disclosed, but Spotify says it expects to spend up to $500 million in total on acquisitions this year. It's interesting. Spotify at some point was talking about original programming, right? They'll get these kind of,
I mean, we could have been rolling in dough, JCD.
You're talking about Pod Show.
Yeah. Yeah, we messed that up. What an exit.
Well, you're way ahead of it. They were too far ahead.
But that's the problem. And here I am doing a podcast in a closet.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh, yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
Well, there are a few people who appreciate you being in the closet, and we're going to mention a few of their names, including Peter De Jong and in Spuzum, BC, $145.76. I called him out on this, by the way. Anyway, he says jingle. He's got some jingle. But I said, nobody lives in Spuzum. And he admitted that it's true. He's not really
in Spuzum. Ah.
No, of course not. But I told him to pick me up some photos of the Spuzum city limit signs and things like that, because I guess he's been through it. The Spuzum story stems from the first time I went to Canada years and years ago to speak. It was in Vancouver. And the guy says to me, hey, you want to get a big laugh? Just say Spuzum sometime during your presentation. I said, what's Spuzum? He says, it's town. It's down in BC. And so I did. I said, and then you're going to go to Spuzum to get some, so I just said it in somewhere, shape, or form. And I got a huge laugh.
Oh, good.
It's like, wow.
For Spuzum.
Scott Cooper's next on the list from Saugus, California, $140. He's got a birthday coming up.
Well, let me see what he has. He has a smoking hot wife. Tammy Cooper turns 40 and is carrying their new human resource, and it will be a masculine one.
Well, I'm glad at least
that's what he says.
They know in advance. Yeah. I don't like people. I don't know. I want to be surprised.
Oh, the gender.
Why do you're
gender
surprised
reveal?
When they put right there? You're surprised. You don't have to be. How many times do you need to be surprised?
You mean about gender reveal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also don't like gender reveal.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of having a party. I think it's lame.
I'm with you.
Sir Malinowski, $138.40. That was our special donation.
He even said meow.
Meow, meow. It's a special donation for Eating Cat Day.
Yes. I think you need to explain. You should explain that to the listeners who don't subscribe to the newsletter, which you can do from any show page.
Yeah, pretty much. It's there somewhere. Yeah, it's in this day in 1384, the year 1384. I think it was Edward or Richard II of the King of England didn't forbid, but he condemned eating cats.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started looking into it, and there's a lot of cultures that still eat cat. In fact, there's a cat meatball restaurant in Shenzhen, China.
A cat meatball?
But apparently the Chinese are turning against eating cat. There's also some recipes on the internet.
I'm pretty sure I ate cat in Spain once, and they sold it to me as rabbit.
You think it was cat?
Yeah. Later, I heard that restaurant had been known for selling cat as rabbit, and I remember this is interesting, rabbit.
Yeah, rabbit's has a very distinct style of texture.
Yes,
and you would notice if it wasn't rabbit.
Yes. Well, cat isn't bad, to be honest. It's a bit like Cobra.
Yeah. Cat, fatten them up.
Yeah. Hey, keep your cat and dog around, people. The Armageddon is coming. It'll
Jonathan
be handy.
Keegan in Charlotte, North Carolina, 138.40. Archduke Nussbaum. We should have a little jingle for him.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd completely missed that he was in there. Hold on a second. We've got all kinds of Nussbaum stuff.
Nussbaum!
That's good.
Wait. Now, where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is.
Nussbaum!
Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here it is. Where's the one, my favorite one? Here Nice. Beautiful.
Jeffrey Fields, 138.40. Onward with Bart Nijman Akka van Rossum. In the Netherlands, in Greenstill.
Hold on, let me read this.
Greenstill.
No. Geen Stijl is a... Geen Stijl is a blog that pretty much... what would I compare that to? It's one of those blogs that rakes everyone over the coals. See, let me just read this. Adam and John was looking at the media response to the Mueller investigation, was wondering out loud on Twitter who to trust, not CNN. Someone advised me to listen to your show, which of course I've already been doing for years. I've never donated, though, so a sudden feeling of douchebaggery came over me. I had to fix this, so please accept this. 1112, which is the Dutch emergency number. That's right. It's the 911 in the Netherlands is 112. It's a 112 donation. Consider de-douching me and keep up the great work on assassinating the mainstream media and their hysterical narratives. All the best, Bart Nijman, a.k.a. Van Rossum, from the Geen Stijl weblog in the Netherlands, who have raked me over the coals many times. So
You've been de-douched.
Because, when I was flying helicopters in Holland, and then...
back in the old days. This thing is that old?
This goes way back. Way back.
Oh.
Yeah, they're the ones that leaked wife number one's videos. Yes. Say no more.
They're a big shot. That's a big-time operation. He could give us more money
Well,
than
they're partially owned by the Telegraaf group, I believe, now, by the newspaper group. So they're kind of mainstreamy, alt, nutty.
Okay.
But, hey, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bart Nijman, a.k.a. Van Rossum. Yes.
Then we have Sir Fomer Brahmin of the Tehachapi Loop, $101.01. And he's got I Love and Light from the Jack London Square. From Jack London Square, Sir Fomer Brahmin of the Tehachapi Loop. Want to call out two douchebags. John Romano in Los Angeles. Douchebag. And Duck in Denville, New Jersey. Douchebag.
You got it.
We'll give you some stuff.
All right. Thank you very much, Sir Fomer.
Genoa Osborne in Anchorage, Alaska, 8008.
With a happy birthday.
Got a birthday.
Yeah, smoking
Sir
hot
Brian
fiance.
Kaufman in Scottsdale, Arizona. He came in. That's right. He just came in the regular check. Ian Webb, 75. Oh, it's Kaufman was 75. By the way, whatever happened to Sir Green of Hams with a 73.73 donation that came in once a month? And I haven't seen it for 4 or 5 months.
Well, I hope he's okay.
Sir Brian Green of Hams.
Yeah. So Ian Webb was
75.
Wait, what did I say? Man overboard. At least I was, due to financial reasons, getting back on the ship. So he has a birthday donation to his lovely inherited daughter, Autumn Bertelli, who turns 12 on the 2nd. She's on the list. So after months of listening to the show on our drive to take to her school, she now asks, "Hey, can we listen to No Agenda?" I couldn't feel more proud than his dad than that. It's true.
It's true.
It's true.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true.
It's true. It's true.
It's true.
Sir Milkman delivers 6677. Eileen Sauer in Muskegon, Michigan, 65. Another for her husband Drew. He's got a birthday coming up, I guess. We got a big birthday list today.
Yeah, it's good.
Robert V. Stats in San Diego, $60. Anonymous from Boulevard, Texas, 5813. Cameron Highland in San Anselmo, California, 5813.
What are these 5813s for, John?
I have no idea.
Is this an old promotion?
Maybe.
Well, thanks. It's fantastic. I love the number. Wait, that's
maybe it had to do with the Fibonacci.
Yes, it's Fibonacci numbers. Yes, got it.
Yes, Fibonacci donation. David Russell for the last show. David Russell at 5813 from Aurora, California. Aaron Von Meter in Cedar Park, Texas, 5679. Sam Godwin, 5510. Double nickels on the dime. Michael Robinson, 5433. James Moore in San Pablo, California, 5384. We need to do another meetup around here. I don't see these guys need to show up. JB in Mishawaka, Indiana, 5123. Sir Chris Sundberg in Mercer Island, California.
No, Washington. Washington.
Oh, I'm sorry, Washington. Somebody sent a note in here. Where is this note? Who's this from? Okay. Joe
Bissessi.
You think?
Bissessi. Yeah, well, Joe's been around, and he has a note because he has a knighthood.
38.
After almost 2 years of listening, I'm pleased to finally be able to write in for my knighthood ceremony for Adam Sanity. I'd appreciate a butt slam bullshit goat scream, NA scream combo, which pretty accurately describes the degradation of my mental health anytime I try to watch CNN for more than 5 minutes. Also, much appreciated would be some human resource karma for my wife, who is early along in the process of growing our second. Below is a link to a CNN article. Okay. Can't thank you guys enough for everything you do. It's a true pleasure listening to the show every week. In keeping with the fish-themed names, I would hereby like to be referred to as Sir Joe Bwan of the Weekapog? Weekapog. Is that how I pronounce it, John? Sir Joe Bwan of the Weekapog, the land with the grooviest...
I have no idea.
...bass lines to tickle the ears of all who listen. Sir Joe Bwan in short. Well, Joe, thank you for your courage. We'll get all that lined up for you. You bet. Looking forward to your ceremony.
Okay. Onward to Kyle Chalk, $50.33. And he's got a birthday coming up. He needs de-douching.
You've been de-douched.
Yeah, it's his smoking hot wife, Courtney, who celebrates... she celebrated on the 26th, so it's late. It must have come in late. And we'll get it, Kyle.
Scott Nelson in Melbourne, Florida, 5001. Eric Dutro in Flint, Michigan, 50. The following people are all $50 donors, name and location. Anonymous Jesse Smollett's Bail Fund, $50. Denny's Crowther Smith in Whitchurch, UK, Shropshire, 50.
Oh, needs a
Louis Pasteur in Miami, Florida, who I think is a Sir by now.
Dennis Crowther Smith needs a de-douching, so I want to make sure we hand that out.
You've been de-douched.
Probably Whitechurch. Jeffrey Zellen in Oakland, Michigan. Darren Denitkowitz. Denikowitz. He's in Dubai, or at least his mail comes from Dubai, or his. Sir Peter Totes in Sugar Land, Texas. Robert Makowski in Rhinebeck, New York. Richard Gardner, Sir Richard Gardner, in parts unknown. I think he's in New York or someplace. Joe Winky in Santa Rosa, California. And last, Hig Hawker from Higginsville, Missouri. I have a note. I have to mention this because he's actually should be credited. He can credit himself with $60 because he spent $10 on this toy that he sent in, which is a screaming goat. And the screaming goat toy has a little book in it.
Oh.
And I'm going to it's got a question and answer book with goat trivia. Not all. I'm going to give you 2 questions out of the 30 or 40.
Okay.
Not all goats are the same. There are many different breeds that are able to clear different heights, but many owners of goats build the fences about 5 feet tall to keep them from. Oh, never mind. That's the answer. How high can a goat jump? 5 feet. Legend has it goats discovered what berry? This is a good question. Blueberry, coffee berry, blackberry, or none of the above?
None of the above.
Coffee berry. It's called a legend for a reason. No one really knows the true story behind the origin of coffee, but one of the greatest stories told is a goat herder from Ethiopia named Kaldi discovered his goats awake and full of energy one night when they should have been sleeping. They had eaten berries from a coffee shrub. When Khalid experimented in eating the berries, well, he had similar invigorating reactions. So the goats got all wired up on caffeine. And this is the last one.
What?
Last one.
Yeah.
How many stomachs does a goat have?
5.
4.
Oh, close.
All right, that's the end of that. That's
the more you know in the morning.
You're up to speed on your goat trivia, everybody. We thank everyone for supporting this episode, 1124, 1,124 full-on episodes of the No Agenda Show. Very proud to be a part of that. We love everything. We love everything that you help us out with, including little gadgets for John. It makes him just. It completes him. I feel. I wish I had a little goat scream machine.
Yeah.
We also want to thank everyone who came in under $50, which is typically for reasons of anonymity, but also a lot of you are on, or not enough, I should say, but a lot of you do seem to be on our subscription programs. Check that. Make sure that you're still on. PayPal has a very nasty habit of canceling your subscription and blaming us for it. It happens all the time, and we get notes regularly with people who just noticed that, so please check that. And we'd love it if you would support the work for our next show. It'll be on Sunday. You can do that at our address, Dvorak.org/NA. Jobs Karma, as requested.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
And the goat karma.
You've got karma.
We'll get towards the end of the month, the 28th of March, 2019. We have start off with a belated birthday. Kyle Chalk says happy birthday to his smoking hot wife, Courtney. She turned 33 on March 26th. Scott Cooper says happy birthday to his smoking hot wife, Tammy Cooper. She turns the big 4-0, which is really tiny for women. Genoa Osborne, happy birthday to his smoking hot fiance, Lori. She turns 26 tomorrow on the 29th. Eileen Sauer, happy birthday to her husband, Drew Sauer, 65 on March 30th. That's coming up. And Ian Webb, happy birthday to his daughter, Autumn Bertelli. She'll be 12 on April 2nd and loves listening to us in the car. And Sir Hank Scorpio of the Electrical Grid, I should say, says happy birthday to Sir Dwight the Knight. A happy 31st birthday. We couldn't be happier for all of you. Happy birthday from everybody here at the best podcast in the universe. Woo! Okay. Before we do our nights, a quick reminder, we do have a number of No Agenda meetups coming up, which you can check out at noagendameetups.com. It's very important to find people who listen to the show and have similar thinking and look them in the eye and meet people face to face. It's something that's incredibly necessary in this world of connectivity. You will enjoy it. We enjoy doing them, and we have April 20th in Greater Atlanta, Hotlanta. The 27th in Zurich. Gee, that's going to be a good one. Eastern North Carolina on May 25th, and Pittsburgh also on May 25th. And you can start your own, or you can go check these out at noagendameetups.com. And now let me grab my blade. We've got two gentlemen waiting on deck. If you could have your sword out, John.
There it goes.
Yeah, there it is. Perfect. Aaron Christensen and Joe Besessi. Gentlemen, step on up here. Thank you very much for your contributions to the No Agenda podcast, at least in the amount of $1,000. And that earned you a spot at the coveted round table of the No Agenda Knights and Dames, and I'm very proud hereby to pronounce to KD Sir Aaron Christensen and Sir Joe Biwan, Knights of the No Agenda Roundtable for you. We've got Hookers and Blow, Rent Boys and Chardonnay. We've got Early Times and BF4. We've got Bourbon and Bong Rips, Goat Chops and Goat Milk, Diet Soda and Video Games, Fish Pie and Fellatio, Pepperoni Rolls and Pale Ales, Mutton and Meat is always on the list, along with Ginger Ale and Gerbils, Bong Hits and Bourbon. And I love those Rubenesque women in rosé as well. Head on over to noagendanation.com/rings and give Eric the Shill all of your information, and we'll get those out to you as soon as possible. I just got a note from Joe. Hey, Adam, it's pronounced Joe Biwan. Yeah, so I kind of got that right.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Biwan.
Yeah, Joe Biwan as an Obi-Wan.
As an Obi-Wan. Joe Biwan. Okay, well, you are at the table, my friend, and thank you, and thank everybody for supporting the show. It's so lovely to do this show. Can you imagine us having to work for a living, John?
We are working for a living. This is a lot of work. It says that we created our own jobs.
Well, yeah. Jobs.
The guy buys a restaurant and he has to manage it.
Right. Let's see. You want to do climate change, Green New Deal?
I think we should open the gate, actually. I got a lot of clips.
Oh, good. Well, let me see. Where's the climate gate? We haven't hit that bitch in a while. Hi, climate gate. Here she is. Come on, gate. Why are you not responding to me?
To the gate, to the gate, to the climate gate.
There she is. Opening up the climate gate where all the bullcrap flows downhill.
Well, the week kind of began with not hearings, but a vote on the Green New Deal in the Senate, which was a mockery.
Yes, it was.
But it was. I want to play. The Democrats were irked by the whole thing because what happened was the Senate what's his name?
Well, let's step back for 1 second. Green New Deal, just so everyone understands, is a resolution that just it's like a globalist thing. We just say, hey, we all agree that this is important, right? Yeah. And then from there, you can create legislation and say, if you recall, we signed the Green New Deal back in the day, and we all agreed this was important. So that's really all that it is. It's just a marker.
So Mitch McConnell decided, well, let's just put this to a vote. Let's forego what usually is a roadblock series of committee meetings and investigations and all these things before you put something to a vote. He said, you guys want this thing? We'll just put it for a vote. We'll skip the middleman and see what happens. Well, the Democrats were having none of it. Here's the random. I want to play 2 clips from the Democrats. Random Democrat. This is any of them would have been doing this clip on the Green New Deal discussion. And let me preface this by saying, during the Senate floor debate, all the Republicans came up with kind of joke presentations. The best one being Mike Lee,
15 minutes
who
of
had
jokes.
Pictures of Reagan on a dragon, and they're just ridiculing the whole Green New Deal as a piece of crap, which it is. But the Democrats, meanwhile, were irked about the way it was presented. Here's the
Republican leader is bringing out for a vote on the floor of the Senate this afternoon the Green New Deal resolution. What the Republican leader, however, is not doing is allowing us to have any hearings, any witnesses, any science, any evidence of the massive destruction in our country just over the last 2 years from fires, from flooding, $400 billion worth of damage. None of that will ever be heard out here. None of it was heard in a committee because the Republican leader is making a sham out of this process. It is not a serious process that this incredible issue deserves. The United Nations has made it clear that climate change is now an existential threat to our country.
Okay. I just want to say 2 things. One, it did not say existential threat to our country. That's not, I read it. That's not what the report said. Existential means you'll be extinct. That's bullshit. 2, I also found this to be quite a shameful charade. This is wasting my time, because I prepped for the show, so it's wasting my time. That's irritating right there. But also, it is wasting money. It makes a mockery of the political process. I found it offensive, personally, that the Republicans did that. Not about the Green New Deal, just the fact they would take so much time out of their day, have people working on dinosaur pictures. It was just bullshit. It pissed me off.
I could see your position. I would say what they should have done was just not done the mockery and just done the vote.
Yeah. Well,
because what it resulted in is that there was nobody voted for the Green New Deal. All these guys who have big mouths, like the next clip, which is White House, Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island, who's been a constant complainer and a huge supporter of global warming, come out and then, condemn the Republicans for being so glib about the whole thing. I think they could have skipped the glib part. I agree with that. Let's, by the way, the Zephyr just went by with a 10-car train.
That's 3 hours late.
Very late.
Did it come through the Eurostar channel by any chance?
No, I don't think so. It did have an extra car, some crazy old car attached at the end. White House on the Green New Deal.
And we are now looking at maps that our coastal agency, that our university, and that the scientists at NOAA tell us will create a new face of Rhode Island in the decades ahead if we don't address climate change. We turn into an archipelago. We lose enormous amounts of waterfront. And as a small state, frankly, Mr. President, we don't have a lot to give back to the ocean. This is deadly serious for us. And I join in my colleague's sense of offense that the other side thinks that this is something funny. This is not funny for Rhode Islanders. This is deadly real. And you may disagree with us, but the one thing I think we are owed on this subject is sincerity. And there is nothing sincere about the vote that is going to be held on the Green New Deal. This is a vote based on a cartoon version of the Green New Deal that was cooked up by the Koch brothers, who have their oily hands all over this mess.
Wait a minute. version? Is there a version of the Koch brothers, the Koch New Deal, the new Koch Green New Deal? What did I miss?
I don't know what he's talking about.
That's interesting.
And it was instructed by the fossil fuel mouthpiece at the Wall Street Journal editorial page. It took only days for the majority leader to hop up and do the bidding of these farces. We are owed better than this. Disagree with our measures? Fine. Have one of your own. We have 5 or 6 different bills and strategies that we're willing to work on. This is a time to be serious, to be sincere, and to quit mocking a concern that across the board is recognized as real. In fact, there is not a Republican here who can't go to their home state university and be told about the truth of climate change. With that, I yield the floor.
Well, that's not any standard.
Now that's for sure. So all these guys came up and made this commentary.
Now this was in the House, right? This was not in the Senate.
No,
this was the
House.
House.
The Senate.
This was the Senate?
Yeah.
The vote was in the Senate.
So they go on, and they all virtue signaled, and they all wanted hearings, when the whole point of a hearing is to take it to the Senate floor. So skipping the hearings part is what irked them, because they wanted to do all these hearings so they can bring all these people on and virtue signal and just get more publicity for their perspective. And so McConnell said, no, you guys want to do this, is you vote yes or no. Let's just get it out of the way. We don't need hearings because we'll just skip the hearing. What do we need the hearings for? You take the vote, knowing that these Democrats were gutless and not one voted for it.
Well, hold on. Interesting to note, Professor John, Ph.D. in political science, who has been listening to the show for maybe a decade, he emailed me this morning. He said, voting present is not exactly the same as voting no or not being there. The reason why you want to vote present is that the party could pick up this issue again and have everybody come back, and they could change those who were present at the time could change their vote to a yay or a nay. So it's not entirely without merit to vote present, but obviously for all the shouting and existential threat crap we heard, you'd expect someone to vote yes, and no one did, not even one of the Democrats.
No, not one yes vote.
Correct.
From these guys who are blowhards, and White House is one of them. If he's making such a fuss, yeah, okay, so the other side's mocking the whole thing, and they're going to vote yes. Aren't you going to take a stand and vote, or they're going to vote no? Aren't you going to take a stand and vote yes so you can be on the record? Not one did, and they're not going to come back and vote yes. I mean, they could, but it's not going to happen. The whole thing is just I agree with you on the part that it's a waste of time. Doesn't have to be such a waste of time that it was, but it took up a whole day, and it was, you know, a lot of the Republicans, like guys like Ben Shapiro, were sniggering over the whole idea, and they thought it was just great. But
I think a lot of people. Here's the thing that's sad. AOC is a great communicator, and it's too bad she doesn't have a message, because her rebuttal to all this bull crap, which I'll play if we have time after your clips, she was communicating something that had nothing to do with global warming, but she was speaking to the kids who were out there. You know, remember the school strike? They have no idea about carbon dioxide. They're talking about dirty water, dirty air, plastic on the planet. They don't even understand any of this. They only read headlines. They're poorly informed. It's too bad, because AOC does have a means to communicate. She's bulletproof in a certain way. If only she could have a message that made sense, she would be worth something.
You mean only if they wrote her a message that made sense?
Yes, and I have thoughts about who's behind her. In fact, I think it's very possible that there's some big oil behind her. Not that she knows about it, but there's a very simple reason for this, and then I'll shut up. When you have renewable energy in place, such as Germany, what happens? So they're closing down nuclear. They've gone as much as they can on wind and solar, which is very inefficient. It's quote unquote free, but it's very inefficient because there's no way to store it. So what happens when the grid needs extra energy? They fire up the gas plants. So the increase in cost and direct revenue to the big oil guys is working beautifully. You'll see Shell and Exxon and all these guys, Chevron. Yes, please. We're all in on renewable energy. They love the hell out of it because
except nuke.
Well, no, of course, you can't have nuclear because that would ruin their deal. The gas people
I agree. I think
make
it's possible
out like bandits.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, sorry.
I know what you're saying. The whole thing, if you put it all together in a big bundle and you have the fact that nuclear power is forbidden, that's only benefits the oil companies when all is said and done.
Yeah, because in Germany now, they have to give away free energy when the wind is blowing really hard because it overloads the network. They're like, shit, Portugal, take our energy because otherwise we're going to blow up the network. And then when it's not enough, they got to switch on, they got to fire up the gas plants. And that's why the cost goes up. It's a bonanza for us, really. We're the premier supplier of gas now. It's a bonanza. So the people have I think that there's unwittingly probably there's oil money behind this whole AOC thing because it's working out swimmingly.
I'm glad you got that in because this next series of clips kind of have a point to be made. And I think it's worth listening to. I cut this down as much as possible. This was a drastic measures series of clips taken from a very long presentation on PBS NewsHour showing some of these nutballs out there that want to seed the stratosphere with sulfur dioxide and calcium carbonate and different things to cool the planet down. Not even discussing does every country in the world want us or one company to be screwing around in the upper atmosphere with
you did
contamination? I don't know.
You did
but
Trump.
Let's play this series. I got 4 clips. This is clip number 1.
As we heard, there's been some debate on Capitol Hill about how to tackle climate change. But the expectation is that very little legislation is going to pass in the foreseeable future. And yet, climate change's impact is growing around the world. The federal government's own assessment found climate change is already costing the U.S. hundreds of billions of dollars and having a major effect in parts of the country. Some researchers argue the problem is getting so serious that it's time to start exploring ideas that have long been seen as far out and potentially loaded with other consequences. But these scientists say the times demand new approaches to lower the Earth's temperature. Miles O'Brien is back with this story. It's part of our Breakthroughs reports for our regular series on the leading edge of science.
Engineer David Keith has run the numbers on climate change, and for him, the bottom line presents a stark reality.
Even if we eliminate emissions, we simply stop the climate problem getting worse. We don't make it any better.
The planet is already in trouble. There's too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and human civilization is doing precious little about it. As you can see here, these trend lines have a lot of inertia. So even if we stopped using all fossil fuels tomorrow, there's still so much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that the problem will persist for decades.
We do need to drive emissions to zero, but we also need to reduce the risk from the CO2 that's in the air.
So he's this guy who also owns a company that sucks carbon dioxide out of the air and then blends it with hydrogen to make fuel. Has got these ideas of seeding the upper atmosphere. And I've heard these ideas for at least 20 years.
Yes.
They're all dangerous. You don't know what's going to happen. They do discuss some aspects of this. But as we go to the end of it, there's a little gotcha that I think is a real kicker here that will make certain that none of this ever takes place. Hopefully. Let's start with clip 2.
Inject large quantities of sulfur dioxide, or maybe another aerosol, into the stratosphere using high-altitude aircraft. This should lower global temperatures by reflecting sunlight away from our planet. It sounds like an idea hatched by a James Bond villain, and David Keith is keenly aware of that.
Geosharing seemed like a bit of a crazy idea, but there was a taboo, and I think taboos are unhealthy, and my view is we should understand it better to see just how crazy it really is.
Chemtrails.
Taboos are unhealthy. I like that puts that in there. Let's go to clip 3.
And maybe, just maybe, to begin to think about mimicking volcanoes by injecting reflecting particles into the stratosphere. That's a terrible idea, but people are beginning to give it some attention.
Yeah, it's really changing. Suddenly, many more of the kind of environmental leadership and sort of science policy thought leadership take this seriously. It really feels very different even from a year ago.
But the devil, as always, lurks in the details. One of the big questions, could it make the climate worse in some places, better in others?
It has all kinds of unclear ramifications. We don't know what the regional changes in rainfall patterns might look like.
That's just one of the possible unintended consequences of solar geoengineering. Other questions? How would it affect agriculture? How would any aerosol interact with the gases already present in the stratosphere? And could there be some unwelcome byproducts?
Yeah, you're spraying us like bugs. I wonder what unwelcome...
I think also to wipe out all life on Earth for all we know. But the reason that this is not going to happen is kind of revealed in the last clip.
ScopeX is a small-scale experiment designed to test some of the unintended consequences of a really big idea. But perhaps the greatest unintended consequence of geoengineering might be in the realm of psychology. If we know we can do it, will we use it as an excuse not to reduce our fossil fuel emissions? For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Miles O'Brien.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you can see if the goal of the global warmists is to put the kibosh, and I only get to use that word once a show.
First time this show,
on the fossil fuel business, the coal industry, and automobiles that you can drive around freely because you can get gasoline, which is a great source of energy. If the idea is to get rid of all that, because there seems to be an underlying idea to get rid of all of that. We want to have electric cars. We want to do this. We want to do that. If that's the idea, the real idea, then this is a bad idea because this doesn't do that. So this will get nowhere because of that one little gotcha, which is that will this actually cool things enough so we can just keep using fossil fuels like maniacs? And I think that's really the whole gotcha on this. That's why I think the whole thing is a big, giant fraud.
Well, my feeling is that they've been testing this solar geoengineering for a long time. You can tell me they haven't, but I see it. And my eyes do not lie. I'm seeing stuff in the air. There's ample, what is this Stop Spraying Us documentary? They've been testing this for a while. So I'm just waiting for someone.
But your thinking is they're not testing it to change the climate much.
No, they're testing it
to do as a means of control.
Yeah, spray us like bugs and keep us docile. Yeah.
Yeah, well.
It's an added benefit. And it's kind of binary. You add the spraying to the 5G. And then and then have you seen this massive push for vaccination? There's a big push going on right now. We have story after story of horrible things happening. Mumps outbreak at Temple.
Late word Tuesday on an expanding mumps outbreak at Temple University.
I think we have a handle on it, but as Dr. Ailes said, we're probably going to see another wave coming.
The numbers have gradually increased over the last month. City health officials say as of this afternoon, there are 105 cases. 18 have been confirmed. A balance of 87 remain probable based on symptoms.
You could imagine that social activities that university students typically do, like party going and those kinds of things.
I like that the guy, he's a university administrator. Like things that people like to do, like, party going and, having sex and stuff. You're in school to learn, but okay.
Are modes of transmission for mumps virus. And so that's what we think has been responsible for much of the transmission that we've been seeing.
Mass vaccination clinics are set for Wednesday and Friday on campus.
Mass vaccination clinics.
Health officials.
Huh? Wait. Yeah. I didn't get to school because of the administrator, but the way he talks. Is this from Chico State?
It's Temple. It says Arizona.
Temple. Because I would think it's Chico State or Arizona. ASU is another one of these schools.
Temple's in Arizona, isn't it?
No, Temple is... No, it's in the middle. It's back east somewhere.
Oh, Temple. Where's Temple? Philadelphia. Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Philly. This isn't, and they have 18 confirmed cases of the mumps, ladies and gentlemen. But no, mass vaccination clinic. Immediately, get your shot, slave.
Clinics are set for Wednesday and Friday on campus. Health officials say close to 1,000 people have already received booster shots.
So we're really trying to encourage folks to come out.
And booster shots. This is new. Booster shots. Not just, no, it's a booster.
We're trying to target some of the more high-risk groups, trying to get folks from the residence halls here, student athletes, just trying to target as many students as we can to come on in and get the vaccination.
People talking about this a lot?
Yeah, right now, yeah.
Do you know anybody who's been affected?
Not really. Nobody around me has been affected.
Temple students have largely gone about their education.
Now, this is just one of the students, but listen, there's an end to this guy.
It sounded like okay.
There's an end to him.
Not really. Nobody around me has been affected.
Temple students have largely gone about their educations unaffected by the illness, but well aware of the stories circulating far beyond campus about the situation. This man here knows he's current with his shot. Do you have a booster?
Yeah.
All right, so you're all set.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I told my friends too, you got to go out and get it done.
They listening to you?
Yeah, they better, because I'm not going to be hanging around them if they,
So this it's so interesting to me. You got your booster shot, so you're good to go, but you're not.
Hold on a second. These university students that are speaking?
Yes, that's a university student.
Okay, go on.
So he went to the mass vaccination clinic, got his booster shot, but still won't hang around with his friends because, if they're not vaccinated, won't hang around with them because, I guess the booster doesn't work. These things, I don't know what's going on. Let's not even discuss this.
I agree with you. This is screwy.
Let's go to Rockland County.
Parents like Movita Harvey are scared.
It is scary. It is scary.
Living in a county with the worst measles outbreak in the nation.
So we had mumps in Philly, and now this is Rockland County. Now we have measles.
Her 8-month-old baby boy, too young to get the vaccine.
Because of this outbreak, the pediatrician, they want to even give the shots a little early, and that's disturbing to me.
The pediatricians are even saying, don't worry about your kid being a little too young. Just give the shot to the kid anyway. Yeah, that is disturbing.
I've been keeping him home since then. He doesn't really go out.
And come midnight, health officials say parents of unvaccinated kids will have to do the same.
This is a public health crisis, and it is time to sound the alarm.
Rockland County health officials taking a drastic step, the first of its kind in the U.S., barring unvaccinated children, that's anyone under the age of 18, from public places for 30 days, including schools, stores, restaurants, places of worship, and public transit. They can go outdoors to public parks.
There's a lot of anger about this, as there's a huge Orthodox Jewish community in Rockland County, and this state of emergency, which means children cannot be in public places, including places of worship, for the next 30 days, conveniently falls in during Passover. So there's people saying, what is this, anti-Semitism? What's going on?
I think it's a very good idea because we're all exposed and we have young children. I have grandchildren. I wouldn't want them exposed.
Most of the 153 cases since October have been in the Orthodox Jewish community, where some parents have refused to vaccinate their kids or cooperate with health officials. So
having these, and there's many of these stories, outbreak here, outbreak there, and it's all MMR. It's measles, mumps, rubella. I don't know. I mean, I question all this booster stuff.
I'm wondering about it too, because there's supposed to be a herd immunity with all the people that get those shots anyway. So nobody should be getting any of these diseases. And then somebody gets the shot, and next thing you know, they have the disease.
Yeah, that's
what bothers me.
Yeah, that's...
And then you have that guy who's probably accurate when he says, "Well, I got the booster, but I don't want to be around any of my friends who have," because he probably has some sense that the booster doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Even though you condemned him. It's just something. You're right. I think you're onto something. This is now your thing.
But I'm not. Well, I've always been on the vaccines ever since we learned that all of the big pharmaceutical companies saw this as the big revenue driver. Now, this is 8 years ago, maybe, that we first saw this presentation.
Well, you found a annual report or a PowerPoint.
It was one of those financial conferences for pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah,
and they present it as a PowerPoint.
Kick ass, especially now they have the law changed, so they're not liable for anything. They make the worst crap and shoot people up with it, and they all die. So what?
I just don't like the. So there's 18 confirmed cases. These other cases all mostly within the Jewish community. Why? And I'm okay with, hey, if you want to get your shot, if you want to get a flu shot, that's fine. But this mandatory, and your kid can't be anywhere, and the emergency, the constant, oh my God, we're all going to die, is crazy. Keep your kids indoors, get them a booster. That urgency bothers me. Why do that? That makes people worried, and it sets them up for other things, I think. I don't know. It's very bothersome to me, the way that's rolling out. And everyone gets all freaked out. Oh, mumps.
Chickenpox is my favorite one.
Chickenpox.
That one wasn't in your report, but that's going on too.
Oh, it's out there. It's out there. So,
yeah, which makes no sense.
I tell you what, why don't we bring this show to an end? It's a perfect place to end. We're all going to die. Get your shot.
Yeah, get shot.
Get your shot.
Oh, get your shot.
I want to thank in advance Chris Cooling, Jesse Coy Nelson, Sir Seat Sitter for the end of show ditties, which we have lined up for you. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in once again to our Deconstructione. We will return on Sunday with another full-blown episode for you. Please support the work at Dvorak.org/NA. And coming to you from Sunday, coming to you from downtown Austin, Texas, in the capital of the Drone Star State. It's FEMA Region Number 6 and all the governmental maps if you're looking for it. In the 5x9 Cludio, which sounds pretty good, in the common law condo. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where I did get to witness this effort go by with an additional car at the end, which was one of those private cars that had a dome on it. I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Sunday with another episode right here on No Agenda. Until then, adios, mofos, and such.
But that constant reinvigoration of hope, determination, optimism, courage to make the future better for the next generation, those are American traits, and these newcomers make America more American.
That was the scene in California's Mojave Desert 5 years ago. Our historic first view of the newcomer's ship. Theirs was a slave ship carrying 250,000 beings bred to adapt and labor in any environment. But they've washed ashore on Earth with no way to get back to where they came from. And in the last 5 years, the newcomers have become the latest addition to the population of Los Angeles.
We welcome in ISIS.
That's true.
Energy can be transmitted, energy can be received, and the collective energy of people who want to achieve something is massive. That's true.
Oh, brother.
Speaking to the grass. Speaking to the grass right here in our filming location.
I don't want to do it, and you can't make me.
That's true.
So the grass is having that reaction.
Do it and you can't make me reaction. That's true. That's what this feeling is.
Cool beans. Onward ho. Let's talk to the trees.
That's true.
The plants and the shrubs and the trees.
That's true.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true.
That's true.
That's true. That's true.
Whoa. To this tree. Are you willing? Whoa. Are you willing to be a portal?
We need to start with the trees before we get to the grasses, because apparently the grasses think the trees are cool, and the trees don't apparently think the grasses are cool. The grasses, they didn't think it was cool, and they said basically, I don't want to do it. You can't make me. Maybe we'll ask this tree, are you aware of the work we were doing this morning, talking to the dead trees in the park? Let's ask this maple. Hey, would you like to do this? Let's start with that pine, because those were dead pines. Hey, friend. And the bay tree said, oh, no, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. All right, let's start with the pine. Maybe all the pines, speaking to the pines. Hey, friends, pine trees, are you willing? And to this oak tree, are you aware of triple oak out back? The really big oak trees, the huge oaks of this yard? They're doing it. But you can be the leader of this front yard. Well, I don't know, Pine Tree ate your lunch on that. But you can jump on the bandwagon and not be one of the losers running around saying, wait for me. They said, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? At least 3 times. We said, yes, yes, yes!
That's true. 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 That's true.
I have an aunt that is wandering around on the mic.
You want to fry him? You want to fry him?
This is Ant 33, I'll come without warning. I might deconstruct even in the morning. Don't be scared, I don't want to alarm ya. I'll probably just say, you got karma. It's Ant 33, raps for no agenda. Got some place that I want to send ya. Sunday and Thursday, tune in for the show. Cause when it's over, it's adios, mofo.
I have an aunt that is wandering around on the mic.
Rapper Ant 33 and no agenda. Dropping some truth.
They've made frickin' deals with interdimensional aliens.
Okay.
And notice the media never attacks you for that, because that's the truth.
Maybe this is true.
The 5G. The 5G. The 5G.
You mean 5G?
And I'm mad at Trump for allowing 5G to come in. They admit 5G in all the studies, LA Times, causes massive mutation and cancer. And literally rattles your DNA apart. All of our kids are under attack.
You mean 5G?
And I'm mad at Trump for allowing 5G to come in. The 5G. The 5G. The 5G. Listen, here's the deal. Right here. The 5G. WAPO. The 5G. WAPO. We're going to set up a world government. We're going to slowly titrate the dose and poison the public, dumb them down, put electromagnetic radiation out with 5G that scrambles their DNA, lowers their IQ. We're going to cause mass mental illness and a controlled societal collapse that'll then be organized and controlled in the mop-up crew by robots, controlled by the globalist programmers who believe with the off-world entities they're in communication with that they're going to be given the operation to upload and be in that larger kind of Borg cube system. The 5G. Listen to me! They tried to recruit my dad to a DARPA program. The CIA is testing on cell towers wavelengths to calm the public during crises. And I have talked to Army generals, commanding generals, major generals, generals, the 5G. Listen to me! CIA, everybody. And they're all 5G.
The best podcast in the universe.
Adios, mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA.
That's true.
That's wrong.